When your one-night mistake becomes your Monday morning nightmare. That's what happened to me, Lena Carter, the night I kissed a stranger in a club and walked away thinking I'd never see him again. Except I did. Right there in the executive suite of Voss Industries, wearing a $1,000 suit and the same dangerous smile that had unraveled me 48 hours earlier. Adrian Voss, my new boss, my reckless mistake, the man who would drag me into a world where power, violence, and desire collide in ways I never saw coming. Stay until the end to see how this all plays out. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The bass pounded through the floor of Eclipse, making my ribcage vibrate with each beat. I shouldn't have been there. Should have been home, under blankets, nursing my wounded pride with ice cream and reality TV like a normal person whose fiancé just called off their wedding via text message. But normal wasn't cutting it tonight. I wanted to feel something other than humiliation. The club was the kind of place where entry required connections I didn't have. But my friend Maya had dragged me past the velvet rope with a wink at the bouncer and a lie about being on some list. Now she was 3 vodka sodas deep and grinding against a guy whose name she definitely didn't know. I stood at the bar, fingers wrapped around a glass of something amber that burned going down. My dress was too tight, borrowed from Maya's closet because my own wardrobe consisted of sensible slacks and button-downs meant for my new corporate job starting Monday. Tonight, I looked like someone else, someone who made bad decisions and didn't apologize for them. You look like you're trying to burn a hole through that glass. The voice came from my left, low, smooth, with an edge that suggested its owner knew exactly how it sounded. I turned. He was tall. That was the first thing. The second was the way he held himself, like the space around him bent to accommodate his presence. Dark hair, darker eyes, a jaw that could have been carved from granite. His suit probably cost more than my rent. Everything about him screamed money and danger in equal measure. "Maybe I am," I said, taking another sip. His mouth curved. Not quite a smile. "Bad night? Bad week, bad month. Take your pick. Sounds like you need a distraction." I should have walked away. Every functioning brain cell I had left was screaming at me to turn around, find Maya, and get out before I did something I'd regret. But those brain cells weren't in charge anymore. The betrayal was. The anger was. The part of me that wanted to feel wanted, even if just for a night. "Maybe I do," I heard myself say. He moved closer, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and woodsy that probably came in a bottle shaped like a monument to masculinity, close enough that the heat from his body made my skin prickle. "I'm not going to tell you my name," he said. "Good. I don't want to know it." That almost smile again. "No strings?" "No anything." His hand came up, fingers brushing my jaw with a gentleness that contradicted everything else about him. My breath caught. I waited for him to say something clever, something calculated, but he just looked at me like he was trying to decode something written in a language he didn't speak. "You're not what I expected to find here tonight," he said finally. "Neither are you." The music shifted, something slower, heavier. Around us, bodies moved in rhythm, lost in their own worlds. He was still watching me, and I realized with a jolt that I was leaning into his touch without meaning to. "Dance with me," he said. It wasn't quite a question. I set my glass on the bar. One dance. He led me into the crowd, his hand warm against the small of my back. We found a pocket of space where the lights barely reached, where the smoke machines turned the air thick and hazy. When he pulled me against him, there was nothing tentative about it. We moved together like we'd done this before, like our bodies had a conversation our mouths weren't having. His hand slid lower on my back. Mine found his shoulder, then his neck. The distance between us disappeared until I could feel his heartbeat against my chest, steady and sure where mine was chaos. "I don't do this," I said against his ear, needing him to know even though it didn't matter. "Neither do I." Maybe it was true. Maybe it was the lie we both needed to tell ourselves. Either way, when his lips brushed my temple, my eyes closed. When they found my jaw, my fingers tightened in his hair. When he tilted my face up to his, I didn't pull away. The kiss started soft, questioning. Then his hand cupped the back of my head and soft disappeared. It was the kind of kiss that erased things. Bad texts, broken promises, the sting of being not quite enough for someone who'd sworn you were everything. It tasted like expensive whiskey and bad decisions and something else I couldn't name. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. The music pounded on, indifferent to whatever had just happened. "Come home with me," he said. And there it was. The cliff edge. The point of no return. Every rational thought I had said no. Said this was exactly the kind of impulsive mistake I'd spend weeks unpacking in therapy. Said men who looked like him and kissed like that were never, ever worth the fallout. But I'd spent 26 years being rational, being careful, being good. And where had it gotten me? Dumped via text by a man who'd promised forever but couldn't be bothered with a phone call. "No," I said, watching something flicker in his eyes, "but we can stay here a little longer." Relief and disappointment crossed his face in equal measure. Fair enough. We didn't talk much after that, just moved together in the darkness, his hands on my hips, my back against his chest, existing in a bubble where tomorrow didn't exist and names didn't matter. Maya found me once, gave me a questioning look, and I waved her off. She grinned and disappeared back into the crowd. Hours blurred together. More drinks appeared. His hands stayed respectful even when mine wandered. Once, he leaned down and said something in my ear that I didn't quite catch over the music, but it made me laugh, really laugh, for the first time in weeks. Around 2 a.m., reality started seeping back in. My feet hurt, my head was starting to throb, and I had a job starting in less than 36 hours that I couldn't afford to screw up. "I need to go," I said, pulling back to look at him. He nodded, but his hand stayed on my waist. "Will I see you again?" "No." That's probably smart. Probably. But neither of us moved. We just stood there, two strangers in a club full of strangers, holding on to something that couldn't last past the moment we stepped outside. "Thank you," I said finally, "for the distraction. Thank you for letting me be one." I stretched up and kissed him one more time, soft, final, a period at the end of a sentence that would never be written. Then I stepped back, grabbed my purse from where I'd abandoned it at the bar, and walked away without looking back. Maya was waiting by the coat check, swaying slightly but grinning. "So? Mr. Tall, dark, and expensive?" "Just a dance," I said. "Liar. I saw that kiss. That was not just a dance." "It was nothing. A moment. It's done." She studied me, then shrugged. "Whatever you say, babe, but for what it's worth, you looked happy, like actually happy. First time since—" "Don't." "Right, sorry." She linked her arm through mine. "Come on, let's get you home. You've got that big first day Monday." The Uber ride passed in a blur of streetlights, and Maya's chatter about the guy she'd been dancing with. I stared out the window, my lips still tingling, and told myself I'd forget him by morning. I was wrong. But yet, Monday arrived with all the subtlety of a freight train. I stood in front of my bathroom mirror at 6 a.m., trying to transform myself back into someone professional, someone who didn't kiss strangers in clubs, someone who had her life together enough to work at Voss Industries, one of the most powerful investment firms in the city. The job had been a miracle, honestly. I'd applied on a whim after my previous company downsized, expecting nothing. But somehow my resume had made it past 3 rounds of interviews, and 2 weeks ago I'd gotten the call offering me a position as executive assistant to someone high up in the company. The pay was double what I'd been making. The opportunities for advancement were incredible. I couldn't screw this up. My hair went into a neat bun, minimal makeup, a navy suit that said competent professional, without trying too hard. By the time I left my apartment, no trace remained of the girl in the too-tight dress who'd melted in a stranger's arms. Voss Industries occupied the top 15 floors of a gleaming downtown high-rise. The lobby alone was intimidating, all marble and chrome and modern art that probably cost more than I'd make in a decade. I checked in at security, got my badge, and took the elevator to the 43rd floor where I'd been told to report. The doors opened onto a reception area that looked like it belonged in an architecture magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the entire city. The furniture was the kind you were afraid to sit on. Everything was sharp angles and cold surfaces. A woman in her 40s with perfect posture and a tablet welded to her hand looked up as I approached. Lena Carter? That's me. I'm Patricia, Senior Administrative Coordinator. You're right on time. Good. She didn't smile, but something in her eyes wasn't entirely unfriendly. I'll show you to your workspace and go over the basics. Your supervisor will meet with you at 9 to discuss expectations. She led me through a maze of glass offices and cubicles, rattling off information about systems and protocols and where to find supplies. My desk was outside a closed office door with frosted glass and no nameplate. You'll be supporting Mr. Voss directly, Patricia said, and my stomach dropped in a way I didn't understand yet. He's exacting, detail-oriented, doesn't tolerate mistakes, but if you're good at your job, you'll learn more here than anywhere else in the industry. Mr. Voss, I repeated, the name snagging on something in my memory. Adrian Voss, CEO. He's in meetings all morning but wanted to see you at 9 sharp. Don't be late. She glanced at her watch. You have 45 minutes. I'd suggest you familiarize yourself with the filing system and the calendar software. Everything you need is in the orientation packet on your desk. She left before I could ask any questions. I sank into my chair, expensive, ergonomic, probably worth more than my car, and opened the packet. Tried to focus on policies and procedures, but that name kept echoing. Adrian Voss. Voss Industries. I'd known the company name, obviously, but I'd never looked up who ran it, never thought to Google the CEO before accepting the job. Why would I? It was an executive assistant position. I'd be working for someone important, sure, but I'd never actually assumed. My hands started shaking before my brain caught up. No, it couldn't be. I pulled out my phone and typed his name into the search bar. Hit images. The first photo that loaded was a professional headshot. Expensive suit, perfectly styled dark hair, sharp jaw, eyes that looked cold and calculating in a way they hadn't been Saturday night. But it was him, the stranger from Eclipse, the man I'd kissed, the man whose hands had been on my body, whose lips had tasted like whiskey and promises neither of us meant. My boss. Oh God, I whispered. This couldn't be happening. This wasn't possible. The universe wasn't this cruel. But the photo didn't change. Neither did the ones below it. Adrian Voss at charity galas, at business conferences, shaking hands with people who probably ran countries. Always in control, always powerful, always looking like exactly what he was. Someone completely out of my league who'd somehow ended up in my orbit for 3 hours on a Saturday night. I checked the time. 8:53. 7 minutes until I had to walk into his office and pretend, what? That we'd never met? That I didn't know what his heartbeat felt like under my palm? That he hadn't almost convinced me to go home with him? Maybe he wouldn't remember. Maybe I was one of dozens of women he danced with in clubs, forgettable, just another face in the crowd. But I remembered the way he'd looked at me, like he was seeing something he hadn't expected, like I'd surprised him. No, he'd remember. At 8:59, Patricia appeared at my desk. He's ready for you. I stood on legs that felt like water, smoothed my skirt, tried to arrange my face into something professional and neutral. The walk to his door took 1,000 years and no time at all. Patricia knocked once, opened it, and gestured for me to enter. The office was massive. One wall was entirely windows. The furniture was minimalist and expensive, and behind a desk that probably cost more than a car sat Adrian Voss, looking exactly like his photos and nothing like the man from Saturday night. He glanced up as I entered. Our eyes met. I watched recognition hit him like a physical force, saw his entire body go still, saw something flicker across his face. Shock, maybe, or anger, or something I couldn't name, before it disappeared behind a mask of cold professionalism. Ms. Carter, he said, his voice giving away nothing. Please sit. I sat, kept my hands folded in my lap so he wouldn't see them shaking. I've reviewed your resume, he continued, looking down at a folder on his desk instead of at me. Impressive credentials, solid references. You come highly recommended. Thank you. This position is demanding. I require precision, discretion, and absolute professionalism at all times. Can you provide that? Yes, I don't tolerate mistakes. I don't tolerate gossip. And I don't tolerate personal entanglements in the workplace. Is that clear? Each word was a chisel, carving out distance between Saturday night and Monday morning. Crystal clear, I said. Good. He finally looked at me, and his eyes were ice. No trace of the man who'd held me in the dark. What happened this weekend was a mistake. It will not be mentioned again. It will not affect your work here. And it will not happen again. Understood? Heat flooded my face. Embarrassment, anger, something sharper. Understood. Then we have an understanding. He handed me a stack of folders. These need to be organized and filed by end of day. Patricia will show you the system. I have meetings until 3. When I return, I'll expect a summary of my calendar for the rest of the week and a list of any conflicts or priorities that need addressing. Of course. That's all. I stood, took the folders, and walked to the door on autopilot. Ms. Carter. I stopped, didn't turn around. Welcome to Voss Industries. The words were polite, professional, and completely empty. I walked out without responding. What? The rest of the day passed in a fog of humiliation and frantic work. Patricia showed me the filing system, complex, detailed, and unforgiving of errors. I threw myself into it, needing the distraction, needing to prove I could do this job even if my boss now thought I was some kind of desperate club-goer who'd thrown herself at him. Except that wasn't what happened. He'd approached me, he'd asked me to dance, he'd been the one to suggest going home together, but apparently none of that mattered now. Around noon, I saw him leave for lunch with a group of men in suits who looked like they bought and sold companies for fun. He didn't glance my way, didn't acknowledge my existence beyond a brief nod that could have been meant for anyone. I ate a sad desk salad and organized folders. At 3 on the dot, he returned, walked past my desk without a word. His door closed. 20 minutes later, his phone line lit up at my desk. Miss Carter, my office. I grabbed my tablet and a pen, even though I had no idea what he wanted, and went in. He was standing by the windows, hands in his pockets, looking out at the city. Didn't turn when I entered. Close the door, he said. I did. Stood there, waiting. The summary I asked for, he said finally, still not looking at me. Do you have it? Yes. I emailed it to you an hour ago. There are 3 calendar conflicts this week, a board meeting overlapping with the investor call Thursday, and 2 separate lunch appointments scheduled for the same time Wednesday. I've drafted some suggested resolutions and forwarded them to Patricia for your approval. Silence. Then, you're efficient. I try to be. Patricia said you picked up the filing system faster than any assistant we've had. It's logical once you understand the structure. Finally, he turned, looked at me with those dark eyes that had seemed so different in the club. You're not what I expected. Neither are you. The words came out before I could stop them. Unprofessional, inappropriate, exactly the kind of thing that could get me fired on my first day. But something shifted in his expression, a crack in the ice. We're not going to talk about Saturday, he said, but it sounded less like an order than before. You made that clear. Good. He moved back to his desk, sat down. Then we understand each other. Do we? His eyes snapped to mine. Excuse me? Nothing. I backpedaled. Is there anything else you need? He studied me for a long moment. No, you can go. I left, closed the door, sat at my desk and tried to remember how to breathe. This was going to be impossible. The week crawled by in a strange tension. Adrian, Mr. Voss, I corrected myself constantly, was demanding but fair. He expected perfection but didn't rage when I fell short, just pointed out the error with clinical precision and expected me to fix it, quickly. I learned his patterns. Coffee at 7, black, no sugar, meetings back-to-back until lunch, which he usually skipped. Calls to Tokyo and London in the early morning and late evening. He worked 16-hour days and seemed to expect everyone around him to do the same. We didn't talk about Saturday, didn't acknowledge it, but it hung between us like smoke, unavoidable even when we pretended it wasn't there. Sometimes I'd catch him looking at me when he thought I wasn't paying attention. Sometimes our hands would brush when I handed him documents, and the contact felt electric, wrong, impossible to ignore. Sometimes I'd walk into his office and find him at the windows again, staring out at the city like he was trying to escape something. On Thursday, I stayed late to finish a report he needed for a morning meeting. The office was mostly empty, just the hum of computers and the distant sound of a cleaning crew. I was so focused on the spreadsheet that I didn't notice him standing beside my desk until he spoke. "You're still here." Bans, bum. I jumped, hand over my heart. "You scared me." "Sorry." He didn't look sorry, looked tired, actually. There were shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there Monday. "That report can wait until morning." "You said you needed it first thing." "I do, but not at the expense of you working until midnight." "It's only 8. Still." I saved the file, sat back. "Why are you still here?" The question surprised both of us. Too personal, too familiar. But he answered anyway. "Same reason you are. Work that won't wait." "You own the company. Couldn't you make it wait?" His mouth curved. Not quite a smile, but close. "You'd think that. But the higher you climb, the less control you actually have. Everything depends on you, which means you can't afford to let anything slip." Sounds exhausting. "It is." He paused, then added, "You're good at this job, better than I expected." Is that a compliment or an insult? Both, probably. The almost smile again. "Patricia thinks I should tell you that more often, that I'm too hard on you." "Are you?" "Probably." We looked at each other across my desk. The office was quiet. The city glittered beyond the windows. And for just a moment, he looked like the man from the club again, guard down, something real beneath the surface. "I should go," I said. "You should." But neither of us moved. "Lena, don't." I stood up, started gathering my things. We agreed. Saturday didn't happen. "Right." He stepped back. "See you tomorrow." Tomorrow. I left before anything else could be said, before the carefully constructed walls between professional and personal could crack any further. Friday afternoon, everything changed. I was at my desk, confirming appointments for next week, when 2 men in dark suits stepped off the elevator. They had the look of people used to being obeyed, rigid posture, cold eyes, the kind of confidence that came from knowing they held power. They walked straight to Adrian's office without checking with me first. I stood up. "Excuse me, you can't—" The door opened before I could finish. Adrian stood there, face blank, but I knew him well enough now to recognize the tension in his shoulders. "It's fine, Ms. Carter," he said quietly. "Hold my calls." The door closed. The blinds on the glass walls came down, something I'd never seen him do before. 45 minutes later, the men emerged. One of them looked at me as they passed, and something in his expression made my skin crawl. The other one smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. When they were gone, I waited 5 minutes, then knocked on Adrian's door. "Come in." He was at the windows again, both hands braced on the glass, every line of his body screaming tension. "Mr. Voss, is everything— I need you to cancel my appointments for the rest of the day." "All of them?" "All of them." I hesitated. "The investor call at 4 is critical. They've been— Cancel it." "Are you sure?" "Ms. Carter." He turned, and what I saw in his face stopped me cold. Not anger, fear, actual genuine fear underneath the control. "Please, just do it, okay?" I left. Canceled the appointments, fielded angry callbacks from important people who didn't like being rescheduled. Watched Adrian's closed door and wondered what the hell those men had said to put that look on his face. At 6, Patricia stopped by my desk. "You should go home. He's still in there." "I know, but there's nothing you can do. Trust me. I've worked here long enough to know when to leave things alone." "Who were those men?" She glanced at the closed door, then back at me, lowered her voice. "Mr. Voss has a complicated past. Some of it catches up with him sometimes. The best thing you can do is stay out of it and let him handle it. But go home, Lena. Come back Monday. Don't ask questions." I wanted to argue, wanted to push, but the look on her face told me I'd hit a wall I wouldn't get past. So I gathered my things and left, looking back once at that closed door. What? Saturday? I tried not to think about it. Did laundry. Caught up on shows. Ignored the 17 texts from Maya asking how my first week went. Sunday, I gave up pretending I wasn't thinking about it and Googled Adrian Voss. The business articles were all glowing. Youngest CEO to lead a Fortune 500 company, brilliant investor, ruthless negotiator. But when I dug deeper, I found older articles. Mentions of a sealed juvenile record. Rumors of connections to organized crime that never quite stuck. A lawsuit from 5 years ago that had been settled quietly out of court. Nothing concrete. Nothing provable. Just whispers and suggestions and carefully worded implications. I closed my laptop and stared at the ceiling. What had I gotten myself into? Monday morning, Adrian was already in his office when I arrived. The door was open, a first. He was on the phone, speaking in rapid Mandarin, but he looked up when I passed and gave me a brief nod. Almost normal. I settled at my desk and started working through emails. Around 9, his door opened. "Ms. Carter, when you have a moment." I grabbed my tablet and went in. He was at his desk for once, reviewing documents, didn't look up when I sat down. "I apologize for Friday," he said. "Canceling those meetings created complications I could have avoided. It's fine. It's not. But I appreciate you handling it professionally." He set down his pen, finally met my eyes. "I need you to do something for me, and I need you to trust that I have good reasons for asking even if I can't explain them right now." "Okay. I need you to flag any visitors who come to see me without appointments. Anyone who shows up unannounced, I want to know immediately, before they reach this office. Can you do that?" "Of course, but no questions. Please." The please caught me off guard. He didn't say it often. "All right, I agreed. No questions." Something shifted in his expression. Relief, maybe. "Thank you. Is there anything else?" He hesitated and I saw him weighing something. Then, "Yes. I need you to access my private calendar. The password is in a locked file in the bottom drawer of your desk. Inside, you'll find appointments I keep separate from the business schedule. Don't ask me what they are. Don't try to reschedule them. Just make sure nothing from the main calendar conflicts with them. Mr. Voss, I don't know if I'm comfortable. I know what I'm asking. I know it's irregular, but I need someone I can trust to handle this, and whether or not it makes sense, I trust you." He looked at me steadily. "You've given me no reason to regret hiring you. You're smart, discreet, and you don't ask questions you know won't be answered. That's rare. You barely know me. I know enough." The weight of Saturday night hung between us again. All the things we weren't saying. "Okay," I said finally. "I'll do it. Thank you." I stood to leave, then paused at the door. "Mr. Voss, those men on Friday, will they be back?" His jaw tightened. "Probably." "Should I be worried?" "No, this isn't your problem to carry. But it's yours." "Yes." We looked at each other, and I saw something in his eyes I hadn't seen before. Not fear this time, something heavier, like he was carrying weight that would crush most people and had somehow learned to move with it anyway. "I should get back to work, I said. "Lena." I stopped. He almost never used my first name. "Be careful," he said quietly. "The people I deal with aren't always kind. If anything happens, if anyone makes you uncomfortable or asks you questions about me, I need you to tell me immediately. Understand?" "Yes." He nodded, dismissed me. I went back to my desk and unlocked the bottom drawer. Inside was a single file folder unmarked. I opened it. The calendar inside was sparse. Appointments with initials instead of names. Locations listed as intersections rather than addresses. Times that were always late, 11 p.m., midnight, 1 a.m. Whatever Adrian was involved in, it wasn't just business. And somehow, I'd just agreed to help him hide it. I closed the folder and got back to work, trying not to think about the fact that Saturday night's mistake might turn out to be just the beginning of something far more complicated than a kiss in a dark club. The week ahead stretched out uncertain and dangerous, and I had no idea yet just how far down this particular rabbit hole went. But I was about to find out. The appointments in Adrian's private calendar haunted me for the next 3 days. I'd memorized them without meaning to. Tuesday at midnight, location listed only as Pier 17. Thursday at 11 p.m., Warehouse District 5th and Morrison. Each one made my stomach twist with something between curiosity and dread. By Wednesday, I'd convinced myself it was none of my business. He was my boss. What he did after hours was his concern, not mine. I scheduled around the mysterious appointments, made sure nothing conflicted, and tried to focus on the mountain of actual work piling up on my desk. Then Patricia pulled me aside during lunch. "You've seen the private calendar," she said quietly. We were alone in the break room, but she still lowered her voice like the walls had ears. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't play dumb. He only gives access to people he's testing, seeing if they can keep their mouths shut." She stirred her coffee, not looking at me. "I had it for 6 months before he trusted me enough to handle things directly. You got it in 2 weeks. I haven't told anyone anything." "I know. That's why I'm talking to you." She set down her spoon. "Be careful, Lena. Whatever you think you know about Adrian Voss, you're probably wrong, and the truth is worse than you're imagining." "Then why stay? Why work for him if it's so bad?" "Because underneath all of it, he's trying to be better than what he came from. Most days he succeeds." She finally looked at me. "But some days the past catches up, and when it does, people around him get hurt. I don't want that to be you." "I can take care of myself." "That's what the last assistant said. She quit after 4 months, wouldn't even give notice, just walked out one day and never came back." The break room suddenly felt too small. "What happened to her?" "Nothing, as far as I know. But she saw something she shouldn't have, asked questions she shouldn't have asked." Patricia stood, dumped her coffee in the sink. "My advice? Do your job. Keep your head down. And don't go looking for answers to questions he hasn't invited." She left before I could respond. I sat there staring at my sandwich, appetite gone. That night, alone in my apartment, I pulled out my laptop and searched for the previous assistant's name, Rebecca Chen, according to the HR records I'd found while organizing files. Her LinkedIn said she was working for a tech startup now, bland corporate headshot, and a job description that probably paid half what Voss Industries had offered. I drafted a message 3 times, deleted it twice, finally sent something simple. "Hi, Rebecca. I recently started at Voss Industries and wanted to reach out to a former assistant for advice. Would you be willing to chat?" The response came back in under an hour. "No, and if you're smart, you'll quit before you're in too deep. Some jobs aren't worth it." I stared at those words for a long time before closing my laptop. Thursday morning, Adrian was already furious when I arrived. I could tell before I even saw him. His office door was closed, and I could hear him on the phone, voice low and sharp in a way that made my skin prickle. I'd learned to read his moods through the glass, the way he moved, how he held himself. Right now, every line of him screamed controlled rage. I set down my bag, started organizing this morning's priorities, tried to ignore the knot forming in my stomach. The door opened suddenly. "Ms. Carter." I grabbed my tablet and went in. He was at his desk, phone still in hand, jaw tight. "I need you to clear my schedule from 6 p.m. onward tonight. Everything. You have the investor dinner at 7. They flew in from Singapore specifically for..." "Cancel it. Mr. Voss, with respect, this is the 3rd major meeting you've canceled this month. People are starting to ask questions." "Let them ask." He tossed his phone on the desk with more force than necessary. "I don't pay you to question my decisions." The words hit like a slap. I kept my face neutral, professional. "Of course. I'll take care of it." I turned to leave. "Wait." He rubbed his face with both hands. "That was out of line. I apologize." "It's fine. It's not." He looked at me, and the anger had drained away, leaving something heavier. Exhaustion, maybe. "You're right. I'm burning bridges I can't afford to burn. But tonight is non-negotiable. I need you to reschedule the dinner, not cancel it. Make it work for next week. Tell them I had a family emergency." "Do you?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. His expression shuddered. "Something like that." I nodded and left, spent the next hour calling Singapore and smoothing over ruffled feathers with promises and strategic apologies. By the time I finished, I'd rescheduled the dinner and saved the deal, but my hands were shaking from the adrenaline. At 5:30, Adrian emerged from his office wearing different clothes, dark jeans, a black jacket I'd never seen before. He looked wrong without the suit, younger and more dangerous. "I'll be unreachable tonight," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "If anything urgent comes up, text Patricia. She'll know how to reach me if it's truly critical." "Understood." He hesitated at my desk, one hand on the edge. "The appointment tonight. The one you saw in the calendar." "I didn't see anything." "Lena." My name again, soft and unexpected. "I need you to promise me something." "What?" "If something happens to me, if I don't come in tomorrow morning, I need you to call this number." He pulled a business card from his pocket, set it on my desk. Plain white, no name, just a phone number in black ink. "Ask for Detective Sarah Martinez. Tell her Adrian Voss sent you. She'll know what to do." Ice flooded my veins. "What are you talking about? What's going to happen?" "Probably nothing, but I need to know someone will make that call if it's not nothing. Adrian, promise me." I looked at the card, then at him, at the shadows under his eyes and the tension in his shoulders, and the way he was trying so hard to seem calm when I could see the fear underneath. "I promise," I said quietly. Something in his expression eased. "Thank you." He left without another word. I sat at my empty desk, staring at that business card, until the office grew dark around me. The next morning, Adrian was late. He was never late. 7 a.m. like clockwork, coffee in hand, already reviewing overnight markets before most people had hit snooze. But at 7:15, his office was still dark. 7:30 came and went. 8 o'clock. Patricia appeared at my desk at 8:15, face carefully neutral. "Have you heard from him?" "No. His 9 a.m. is the board meeting. He can't miss that." "I know." We looked at each other. I thought about the business card still in my desk drawer, thought about promises and warnings and the fact that Adrian had looked like he was heading into battle last night. At 8:30, my phone buzzed. "Adrian. Running late, start the board meeting without me. I'll be there by 9:30. Relief hit so hard I had to sit down. "Me." "Understood." He walked in at 9:27, perfectly put together in a gray suit, not a hair out of place, but I'd learned to see past the surface now. There was a bruise on his left hand he was trying to hide, a stiffness in the way he moved, and something dark in his eyes that hadn't been there before. "Ms. Carter," he said, barely pausing at my desk, "I need the Morrison file and coffee. Black, 2 sugars. 2 sugars. He never took sugar. I brought him the file and the coffee, knocked once, and entered. He was at the window again, tie loosened, jacket discarded. When he turned to take the cup, I saw the bruise on his jaw he'd tried to cover with makeup. "Are you all right?" I asked before I could stop myself. "Fine." "You're hurt." "It's nothing." "Adrian, drop it." His voice went hard. "Please." I set the file on his desk, started to leave. "Lena." I stopped. "Thank you, for the card, for being someone I could give it to." I looked back at him, this powerful man who ran empires and made million-dollar decisions before breakfast, and saw someone desperately alone. "Did you have to use it?" I asked quietly. "No, but it was close." "What happened?" "Old debts," he said. "Old mistakes coming due. Can I help?" He almost smiled. "Almost. You already are. More than you know." The board meeting ran long. By the time it finished, Adrian looked ready to collapse, but he pushed through 2 more calls and a contract review before finally admitting defeat at 4 p.m. "I'm going home," he said, standing at my desk. "If anyone asks, I'm working remotely tomorrow." "Are you sick?" "Just tired." "You should see a doctor about that bruise." "It's fine." "It's not, and you know it." He looked at me for a long moment. "Since when do you worry about me?" "Since you gave me a detective's number and implied you might not come back." Something flickered in his expression. "Fair enough." "Adrian," I used his first name deliberately, "what's really going on?" He glanced around the mostly empty office, then back at me. "Not here. Not now." "Then when?" "I don't know." He picked up his briefcase, "but probably soon. Things are coming to a head, and when they do, you're going to have questions I can't avoid answering anymore. I already have questions. I know. You're just smart enough not to ask them yet. He started toward the elevator, then paused. Go home on time tonight. Don't stay late working. Don't take the usual route to your apartment. And if anyone approaches you asking about me, don't engage. Just walk away and call that detective. You're scaring me. Good. Fear keeps you careful. Careful keeps you safe. The elevator doors closed on his bruised face and tired eyes. I sat there for a full minute, heart pounding, before grabbing my phone. The business card came out of my drawer. I stared at the number, then dialed. 3 rings. Martinez. Detective, my name is Lena Carter. I work for Adrian Voss. He told me you might call. He's hurt. Not badly, I think, but he came in late today with bruises, and he's acting strange, and I'm worried. Ms. Carter. Her voice was professional, but not unkind. I appreciate your concern, but whatever Adrian's dealing with right now, he's handling it. The best thing you can do is exactly what he's asking. Be careful, keep your distance from anything that doesn't feel right, and call me if something genuinely dangerous happens. Something dangerous did happen last night. I know. I was aware of the meeting. It went as well as could be expected. You knew about it? I know about a lot of things concerning Adrian Voss. And I'm telling you the same thing I've told others who've gotten pulled into his orbit. He's trying to get out from a life he never really chose. But getting out isn't simple when the people who want you to stay have long memories and no conscience. What does that mean? It means your boss has enemies, powerful ones, and right now those enemies are testing him, seeing if he'll break. My job is to make sure when he's ready to fully walk away, he's got protection. Your job is to not become leverage they can use against him. I'm just his assistant. You're someone he trusts. In Adrian's world, that makes you valuable. And valuable things get targeted. The line went dead. I sat in the darkening office, staring at my phone, trying to process what I'd just heard. Adrian wasn't just a CEO with a complicated past. He was someone actively trying to escape something dangerous. And somehow, without meaning to, I'd become part of that story. I grabbed my things and left, taking a different route home like he'd suggested. Watched over my shoulder for the entire train ride. Double-checked my locks when I got inside. Sleep didn't come easy that night. The next week shifted into something strange and tense. Adrian worked from home Monday and Tuesday, communicating only through emails and brief calls. When he came back Wednesday, he looked better, bruises fading, some of the tension gone from his shoulders. But the distance between us had grown. He was professional, polite, completely closed off. By Thursday, I was ready to quit. Not because of the work, which I was good at. Not because of the pay, which was excellent. But because trying to care about someone who wouldn't let you in was exhausting, and I was tired of pretending I didn't care. I was drafting my resignation letter when Patricia knocked on my desk. He wants to see you. When? Now. And Lena? Whatever he says in there, just listen. Don't react. Don't judge. Just listen. My stomach dropped. What's happening? Not my story to tell. I went in expecting another cold dismissal, another wall of ice I couldn't crack. Instead, I found Adrian sitting on the couch against the far wall, not at his desk. His tie was off. He looked younger without it, more like the man from the club. Sit, he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. I sat. For a long moment, he just looked at me. Then, you deserve to know what you've gotten yourself into, what working for me really means. Okay. My father ran one of the largest organized crime operations on the East Coast. Drugs, weapons, money laundering. If it was illegal and profitable, he had a hand in it. I grew up in that world, learned the business before I could drive. By the time I was 18, I was running numbers and managing shipments. I kept my face neutral, didn't let the shock show. When I was 22, my father was killed. Rival organization, retaliation for a deal gone wrong. His associates expected me to take over, continue the family business. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I didn't want it, never wanted it, so I made a deal. I'd use everything I'd learned, the financial skills, the networking, the strategic thinking, and build something legitimate. Build Voss Industries. In exchange, I'd consult occasionally. provide financial services. Stay connected enough that they didn't consider me a threat. Consulting, I repeated. That's what the midnight meetings are? Yes. They bring me problems. I solve them. Usually it's just moving money, making investments look clean. Sometimes it's more. Like Thursday night. His jaw tightened. Thursday night they wanted me to approve a deal I couldn't stomach. Told them no. They didn't like that answer. They hurt you. They reminded me that I don't get to just walk away, that my freedom is conditional, temporary. He looked at me directly. And now you know. The truth I've been hiding. The reason I keep people at arm's length and cancel meetings and have a detective on speed dial. Why are you telling me this? Because you were going to quit. I could see it in the way you've been looking at me all week, and because you deserve to make that decision with all the information. I haven't decided to quit, but you were thinking about it. I couldn't deny that. Yes. And now? I thought about Patricia's warning, Rebecca's message, the detective's words about leverage and value. Everything rational said run, get out, find a normal job with a normal boss who didn't have bruises from midnight meetings with criminals. But I looked at Adrian, really looked at him, and saw someone fighting, trying, building something good from something terrible, and doing it alone because letting people in was too dangerous. I need to know one thing, I said finally. What? Are you hurting people? Through this consulting, these deals they make you part of. Are innocent people getting hurt? No, that's my line, the one thing I won't cross. If they ask me to do something that directly harms someone, I refuse. That's what Thursday was about. And they beat you for it. They tested me to see if I'd cave under pressure. I didn't. What happens when they test you again? I keep saying no, until either they give up or I find a way to cut ties completely. Is that possible? Detective Martinez thinks so. She's been building a case against the organization for 3 years. When she has enough to move to dismantle them entirely, I'll testify. Give her everything I know, and then I'll finally be free. That's dangerous. Everything's dangerous. At least this has an endpoint. I sat back trying to process it all. You could have lied to me, made up something simpler. I could have. But you're not the kind of person who accepts simple answers. And I'm tired of lying to the one person in this office I actually trust. You barely know me. I know enough. You're loyal, smart, you see through bullshit, and you kissed me in a club like I wasn't a CEO or a criminal's son, just a person. He smiled slightly. That matters more than you'd think. Heat crept into my face. We weren't going to talk about that. Maybe we should, because pretending it didn't happen hasn't been working. Not for me. My heart did something complicated. Adrian, I'm not asking for anything, not trying to cross lines that shouldn't be crossed. I just need you to know that Saturday night wasn't nothing, not to me. It can't be something, I said quietly. You're my boss, you're in danger, and I'm just trying to figure out my life after my fiancé dumped me via text. I know, all of that's true. But it doesn't change the fact that you're the first person in years who's looked at me and seen someone worth knowing beyond what I can offer them. We sat in the heavy silence that followed, both aware we were standing at the edge of something neither of us could quite name. Finally, I stood. I should get back to work. Does that mean you're staying? For now. But Adrian, if this gets worse, if these people start targeting me or putting me in danger, I'm out. I can't be leverage against you. I won't. Fair enough. I went to the door, paused. And for the record, Saturday night wasn't nothing to me either. I left before he could respond. The rest of the day passed in a strange haze. I worked mechanically, answered calls, scheduled meetings, pretended everything was normal. But my mind kept circling back to Adrian's confession, to the weight of secrets shared and the dangerous ground we were both standing on. At 6, Maya called. Please tell me you're free tonight. I need my best friend and several drinks. What happened? Guy I was seeing turned out to be married. Found out via Instagram because his wife tagged him in vacation photos. I need to vent, and you need to tell me why you've been ghosting me for 2 weeks. Guilt hit sharp. I'm sorry, work's been intense, but too intense for a single text? Come on, Lena, what's really going on? I glanced at Adrian's office. The lights were still on, his silhouette visible through the frosted glass. Nothing I can talk about over the phone. But yeah, I'll meet you. Same bar as last time? The one where you met Mr. Mysterious? Sure, why not? Maybe lightning will strike twice. If only she knew. I grabbed my coat, stopped by Adrian's door, knocked once. Come in. He was packing up, shoving papers into his briefcase with barely controlled frustration. I'm leaving, I said. Unless you need anything else. No, go. Enjoy your evening. Are you okay? He laughed, sharp and humorless. Define okay. Adrian. I'm fine. Just got a call that made my night more complicated. Nothing for you to worry about. The midnight appointment you have scheduled is handled, or will be. He looked up and his eyes were tired. Be careful tonight. Take an Uber home, not the train. And Lena? Yeah? Thank you for not running. Most people would have. I'm not most people. No, you're definitely not. I left before the conversation could go anywhere deeper. Maya was already 3 drinks in when I arrived, holding court with the bartender about the failings of modern dating. She lit up when she saw me. Finally, I was about to send a search party. She pulled me into a hug that smelled like expensive perfume and vodka. You look exhausted. Work really is kicking your ass, huh? Something like that. We claimed a table in the back, and I let her vent about the married guy for 20 minutes before she finally turned the interrogation on me. Okay, your turn. What's going on? And don't say nothing because I know your stress face, and you're wearing it hard right now. I wanted to tell her. Wanted to unload everything. Adrian, the danger, the impossible situation I'd somehow landed in. But the words stuck. My boss is complicated, I said finally. Complicated how? Like bad at email complicated or embezzling funds complicated? More like, has enemies who showed up at the office and threatened him complicated? Maya's eyes went wide. Holy shit, are you in danger? I don't know. Maybe. He says no, but I'm not sure I believe him. Then quit. Lena, no job is worth getting hurt over. It's not that simple. Why not? Because I'm starting to care about him. Because walking away feels like abandonment. Because for all the danger and secrecy, I've never felt more awake than I do working beside someone fighting to be better than his past. But I couldn't say any of that. I just need a little more time to figure things out, I said instead. Maya studied me over her drink. This is about Mr. Mysterious, isn't it? The guy from the club? What? No, why would... Because you got that same look in your eyes when you came back from dancing with him. Like you'd found something that scared you, but you couldn't let it go. She leaned forward. It's him, isn't it? Your boss. The guy from Saturday night. I didn't answer. Didn't need to. Oh my God. Lena, are you serious right now? It's not like that. Nothing's happening. It can't happen. But you want it to. It doesn't matter what I want. The situation is impossible. Most good things are. She grabbed my hand. Look, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I will say this. You spent 3 years with David playing it safe, being the perfect girlfriend, following all the rules, and he still left. Maybe it's time to stop worrying about impossible and start asking what you actually want. I want to not get caught in the crossfire of my boss's criminal past. Okay, fair, that's valid. She squeezed my hand. But I also see the way you're talking about him. Like he matters. Just be careful, yeah? Your heart's been through enough lately. We stayed for another hour, conversation drifting to safer topics. But Maya's words stuck with me long after we parted ways. The Uber ride home was quiet. I stared out the window at the city lights, thinking about choices and consequences, and the fact that I'd somehow ended up exactly where Patricia warned me not to be. Too close, too invested, too tangled in Adrian's complicated life to walk away clean. My phone buzzed. Adrian. Home safe? Me. Almost. You? Adrian. Define safe. Me. Still alive counts. Adrian. Then yes. Meeting went better than expected. For once. Me. Good. See you tomorrow. Adrian. Lena? Me. Yeah? Adrian. I meant what I said earlier about Saturday night, about you. My heart did that complicated thing again. Me. I know, me too. I put my phone away before I could say anything else, before I could cross lines that once crossed couldn't be uncrossed. The weekend came and went in a blur of laundry and Netflix and trying not to think about Adrian or midnight meetings or the way he'd looked at me when he said I mattered. Monday brought new complications. I arrived at the office to find Patricia's desk empty and Adrian's door already closed, voices raised inside. I couldn't make out words, but the tone was clear, argument, heated and getting worse. 20 minutes later, the door opened and two men walked out. Not the same ones from before, but cut from the same cloth, expensive suits, cold eyes, the kind of presence that made normal people move out of the way. One of them stopped at my desk. "You're new," he said. "Can I help you with something?" "Just observing. Adrian's been making interesting choices lately. Wondered if you were one of them." Ice ran down my spine. "I'm his assistant, that's all." "Right, of course." He smiled and it was predatory. "Tell Adrian we'll be in touch about Thursday. He'll know what that means." They left. I sat frozen for a full minute before Adrian's voice called out, "Lena, office, now." He was pacing when I entered, running his hands through his hair in a gesture I'd learned meant he was barely holding it together. "What did they say to you? Just that they'd be in touch about Thursday. That's all?" He asked if I was one of your interesting choices, whatever that means. Adrian's expression went dark. "They're testing boundaries, seeing what they can use." "Use for what?" "To control me, to remind me I'm not as free as I think I am." He stopped pacing, looked at me directly. "I need to accelerate the timeline. Talk to Martinez today. This is moving faster than I expected." "What's Thursday?" "Another meeting, bigger than the others. They want me to sign off on something that crosses every line I've drawn. If I say no, they'll hurt you again. Or worse, they'll hurt someone I care about to prove they can." The implication hung heavy between us. "I should quit," I said. "Remove myself as a variable." "That won't help. They already know who you are. Leaving now just makes you less protected." "Protected how?" "Adrian, I'm sitting at a desk answering phones. I'm not protected from anything. You're in a building with security cameras, guards, and public visibility. You're safer here than you would be on your own." He moved closer. "I know how they think, know how they operate. As long as you're visibly just my assistant, just doing a job, you're not a threat, not worth targeting. But if you run, if you act scared, that changes the calculation." "This is insane." "I know, and I'm sorry. I never should have hired you, should have seen this coming. Little late for that." "Yeah." He rubbed his face. "Martinez is meeting me tonight. I'm going to push her to move faster on the case. Get these people locked up before Thursday's meeting happens. And if she can't, then I go to that meeting and I figure it out. By yourself. That's how this works." I wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he didn't have to carry this alone. But we both knew that wasn't true. This was his past, his mess, his fight. All I could do was make sure he survived it. "Go," I said. "Talk to Martinez. Do whatever you need to do. I'll handle things here." He looked at me like he wanted to say something else, something important, but whatever it was stayed locked behind his careful control. "Thank you," he said instead. He left for his meeting with Martinez at 4. I stayed until 8, working through emails and scheduling, trying to keep busy enough that I didn't think about all the ways this could go wrong. Patricia found me at my desk around 7:30. "You should go home." "I'm almost done. Lena." She sat on the edge of my desk. "Whatever he told you, whatever you think you need to do to help him, it's not your responsibility." "I know that." "Do you? Because you've got that look. The same one Rebecca had right before everything fell apart." "What happened to her? Really?" Patricia was quiet for a long moment. She saw something she shouldn't have. One of Adrian's midnight meetings went wrong, got violent. She witnessed it, and even though Adrian protected her, got her out safely, she couldn't handle knowing what his life really looked like. Quit the next day. Did they threaten her? No, but the fear was enough. "I'm not Rebecca." No, you're worse. You're not running scared. You're running toward it, toward him. She shook her head. I've worked for Adrian for 5 years, know him better than most, and I'm telling you, caring about him is dangerous. Not because he's a bad person, but because the people trying to pull him back into that life won't hesitate to use you against him. He knows that. He's trying to protect me. By keeping you here? By letting you see the private calendar and answer calls and stay late? That's not protection, Lena. That's him needing someone in his corner so badly he's willing to risk your safety for it. The words hit hard because they were true. What do you want me to do? I asked quietly. Whatever you need to. Stay, go. I can't make that choice for you, but make it clear-eyed. Don't romanticize this. Don't think you can save him. The only person who can get Adrian out of this mess is Adrian himself. She left me sitting there, staring at my computer screen, wondering if I'd already made my choice without realizing it. My phone buzzed at 9:15. Adrian. Meeting's done. She's moving the timeline up. Things are going to get messy. Me. How messy? Adrian. Thursday's meeting is now the trap. They're going to raid it, arrest everyone there. Me. Including you? Adrian. I'll be wearing a wire, giving testimony. But yeah, I'll be there when it goes down. Me. That's insane. You could get killed. Adrian. Or I could finally be free, worth the risk. I stared at those words, at the casual way he discussed risking his life, and felt something crack open in my chest. Me. Don't do this alone. Let me help somehow. Adrian. You are helping by being someone I can trust, someone I know will be okay when this is over. Me. And if you're not okay? Adrian. Then you make that call to Martinez, tell her everything, and you move on with your life, knowing you tried. Me. That's not good enough. Adrian. It's all I've got. The conversation ended there. I sat in the empty office, city lights spreading out below, and tried to figure out how to care about someone without drowning in the undertow of their choices. Thursday was 3 days away. 3 days until Adrian walked into a room full of criminals wearing a wire and betting his life that the police would get there in time. 3 days to figure out if I was brave enough to stay or smart enough to run. I packed up my things and went home, knowing I wouldn't sleep but needing to try. The countdown had started, and there was no stopping it now. Tuesday morning arrived with rain hammering against the windows, and a text from Adrian that made my stomach drop. Adrian. Don't come into the office today. Work from home. Me. Why? What's happening? Adrian. Just trust me, please. I stared at my phone, already dressed for work, coffee getting cold on the counter. Every instinct screamed that something was wrong, but arguing over text wasn't going to get me answers. Me. Fine, but you owe me an explanation. He didn't respond. I spent the morning refreshing my email every 5 minutes, jumping at every notification. Patricia sent over files to review, scheduling conflicts to resolve. Nothing that explained why I'd been banned from the office. By noon, I couldn't take it anymore and called her. What's going on? I demanded when she picked up. Can't talk about it over the phone. Patricia, please. Is he okay? She sighed. Physically, yes. Mentally, he's barely holding it together. Those men came back this morning, early, before security even arrived. They were waiting in his office when he got here. How did they get in? Someone gave them access. We don't know who yet, but Adrian's convinced there's someone inside feeding them information. That's why he didn't want you here. Doesn't know who to trust. He trusts you. For now, but paranoia is setting in. He's questioning everything, everyone. It's ugly, Lena. Really ugly. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass of my apartment window, watching rain blur the city below. What did they want? To remind him Thursday's not optional, and to make it clear they know things about his life they shouldn't, about people close to him. They mentioned me. It wasn't a question. Your name came up, along with mine and half a dozen others. They're establishing that he's not operating in a vacuum, that choices he makes affect people beyond himself. Did they threaten anyone specifically? Not in so many words, but the implication was clear enough. I closed my eyes. This is getting out of control. It's been out of control. We're just seeing it clearly now. Patricia's voice softened. Look, I know you care about him. It's obvious to anyone paying attention. But you need to decide how much you're willing to risk for someone who might not make it to the other side of this week intact. Has he talked to Martinez again? She was here for 2 hours this morning after those men left. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught enough. The raid's still on for Thursday. They're adding extra units, tightening security, but it's risky. Really risky. If something goes wrong, if the wire gets detected or someone tips them off, Adrian could die. Yeah. We sat in silence, broken only by rain and distant traffic. Keep him safe today, I said finally. I'll be back tomorrow. Are you sure that's smart? Probably not, but I'm done sitting on the sidelines. I hung up before she could argue. The rest of Tuesday dragged. I worked from my couch, barely absorbing anything, mind spinning through worst-case scenarios. Adrian sent one more text around 4. Adrian. Sorry for the radio silence. Today was complicated. Me. Patricia filled me in. Are you okay? Adrian. Define okay. Me. Still using dark humor to deflect, so probably not. Adrian. You're getting good at reading me. That's dangerous. Me. Everything about this situation is dangerous. That ship sailed weeks ago. Adrian. Fair point. I'm heading home soon, long day tomorrow, getting prepped with Martinez. Me. And Thursday? Adrian. Thursday I end this, one way or another. The finality in those words made my chest tight. Me. Don't talk like that. Adrian. Like what? Me. Like you're not planning to survive. 3 dots appeared and disappeared twice before his response came. Adrian. I'm planning to survive, but I'm also realistic about the odds. These people don't forgive betrayal. Even with police protection, there's a window where things could go very wrong. Me. So don't go. Let Martinez handle it without you. Adrian. Without my testimony, the case falls apart. They need me in that room on record, giving them what they need to prosecute. I'm the linchpin. Me. I hate this. Adrian. Yeah, me too. Me. Adrian? Adrian. Yeah, Ian. Me. Come back alive. That's not optional. The 3 dots danced for a long time. Adrian. I'll do my best. That's all I can promise. It wasn't enough, but it was all I was going to get. Wednesday morning, I showed up at the office at 6:30, earlier than usual. Adrian's car was already in the garage, sleek black sedan parked in his reserved spot like a warning. The elevator ride to the 43rd floor felt longer than normal. When the doors opened, I found him standing at my desk, coffee in hand, looking like he'd been waiting. I thought I told you to stay home, he said. You suggested it. I ignored you. Lena, we can argue about it, or you can tell me what you need me to do today. Your choice. Something flickered in his expression, not quite a smile, but close. You're stubborn. You're just now figuring that out? He handed me the coffee, my usual order, not his. I had them make you one too. Figured you'd show up despite everything. I took it, warmth spreading through my fingers. You know me too well. Starting to. We stood there in the empty office, city waking up around us, existing in a bubble of almost normal that we both knew wouldn't last. Martinez is coming at 9, Adrian said finally. We're doing a final run-through of tomorrow night, making sure the wire works, establishing the timeline, covering every contingency. Can I sit in? No. Why not? Because the less you know about operational details, the safer you are. If something goes wrong, if they question you after you're dead, you mean? His jaw tightened. If I'm compromised, you need to be able to honestly say you don't know anything about police operations. But I already know there's a raid planned. I know you're wearing a wire. How is hearing more details going to change that? Because knowing I'm working with the police is different than knowing where they're staging, how many units are involved, what the arrest plan looks like. The first makes you a concerned employee. The second makes you an accessory. I wanted to argue but couldn't find the angle. He was right, even if I hated it. Fine, I said. I'll stay out here, do my job, pretend everything's normal. Thank you. But Adrian, When this is over, when you're safe and those people are in custody, we're going to have a long conversation about you making decisions for my safety without asking me first." The almost smile returned. "Looking forward to it." Detective Martinez arrived at 9 sharp, accompanied by a man in a suit who looked like he'd been born scowling. They disappeared into Adrian's office, and the blinds came down immediately. I tried to focus on work, answered emails, confirmed appointments for next week that Adrian might not be alive to attend. The thought made my hand shake, so I pushed it away and kept typing. Patricia showed up around 10, took one look at the closed blinds, and shook her head. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "So I've been told. And yet. She set her bag down, started her computer. For what it's worth, I get it. If I were 20 years younger and hadn't learned the hard way that caring about Adrian Voss is a losing game, I'd probably be doing the same thing. You care about him. As much as anyone can. But I learned to keep it professional, keep it distant. You haven't figured that out yet." "Maybe I don't want to." She looked at me over her reading glasses. "Then you're braver than most. Or more foolish. Haven't decided which." The meeting lasted 3 hours. When Martinez and her partner finally emerged, both looked grim. Martinez paused at my desk. "You're Lena Carter." "Yes." "Adrian speaks highly of you." "Does he?" She pulled out a business card, set it down. Different from the first one. This had her full title, precinct number, direct line. "If anything happens tomorrow night, if you don't hear from him by midnight, call me. Don't wait. Don't assume he's fine. Just call." "Okay." "And Miss Carter, when this is over, assuming it goes the way we hope, Adrian's going to need people around him he trusts. People who see past the empire and the money to who he's actually trying to become. I think you might be one of those people." She left before I could respond. Adrian's door opened a few minutes later. He looked exhausted, tie loosened, hair disheveled from running his hands through it too many times. "Tomorrow at 11 p.m., he said without preamble. "Warehouse in the industrial district. I'll be wired. Police will be staged 2 blocks away. When I give the signal, they move in." "What's the signal?" "Specific phrase. Can't tell you what it is, but I'll know when to use it. And if something goes wrong before you can give it, there's a panic button built into the wire. If I trigger it, they come immediately." "That's not reassuring." "It's not meant to be. It's meant to be realistic." He moved closer, lowered his voice. "I need you to promise me something." "What?" "If this goes bad, if I don't make it out, you take everything you know and you give it to Martinez. Every conversation we've had, every appointment in the private calendar, everything. Help her finish what we started." "Adrian, promise me, Lena." I looked up at him, at the fear he was trying so hard to hide behind determination, and felt something break open in my chest. "I promise. But you're going to make it out. You have to." "Why?" "Because I'm falling for you, because somewhere between that first night at Eclipse and now, you became more than just my boss or a mistake I couldn't forget. Because the thought of you not existing in the world makes everything feel dimmer. But I couldn't say any of that. Because you owe me that conversation," I said instead, "about making decisions for my safety without asking." He smiled, real and warm. "Yeah, I do." The rest of Wednesday passed in tense preparation. Adrian had back-to-back calls tying up loose ends, delegating responsibilities in case Thursday went sideways. I listened to him restructure deals and reassign projects, heard the unspoken goodbye in every decision. Around 6, most of the office had cleared out. Patricia stopped by my desk one more time. "Go home, Lena. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be hard enough without you running on empty." "What about you?" "I've got a few more things to finish, but I'll be out soon." She glanced at Adrian's office. "Take care of yourself. And if you're going to pray or hope or whatever you do, tonight would be a good time to do it." I packed up my things, but something kept me from leaving. Some instinct that said walking away tonight was wrong. I knocked on Adrian's door. "Come in." He was at the windows again, his favorite spot, watching the city light up as dusk settled. "You're still here," he said without turning. "So are you." "I'm always here." "That's not true. Sometimes you're at midnight meetings in warehouses, making deals with criminals so they don't destroy everything you've built. He turned then, and the vulnerability in his face nearly undid me. After tomorrow, I won't have to do that anymore. One way or another, this ends. It's going to work. The raid, the arrests, all of it. You're going to be free. You sound certain. I have to be. The alternative is unacceptable. He crossed the space between us in 3 steps, stopped close enough that I could feel the heat coming off him. I need to tell you something, in case I don't get another chance. Don't. Don't talk like you're not coming back. Lena, please, just listen. He took a breath. That night at Eclipse, I went there to forget. To have one evening where I wasn't Adrian Voss, CEO, with a criminal past and enemies breathing down his neck. I just wanted to be nobody for a few hours. And then I met you. Adrian, you looked at me like I was worth knowing, like I mattered beyond what I could offer or provide. And when you walked away, I thought that was it. One perfect moment I'd never get back. His hand came up, fingers brushing my jaw just like they had that night. Then Monday morning happened, and you were sitting across from me, and I knew I was in trouble. My breath caught. Why? Because I'd spent 2 years building walls, keeping people at arm's length, telling myself I couldn't afford connections, couldn't risk caring about anyone because caring made you vulnerable. And you walked into my life and shattered every wall I'd built without even trying. I'm just your assistant. You're so much more than that, and you know it. His thumb traced my cheekbone. You're the person I trust with my secrets, the person I text at midnight because I need someone to remind me there's a point to all this fighting. You're the reason I'm going through with tomorrow instead of running. That's too much pressure. It's not pressure. It's truth. You make me want to be the person you think I can be. Someone who deserves a life beyond crime and midnight meetings and looking over my shoulder. We were standing too close, his hand still on my face, my heart hammering so hard I was sure he could hear it. If you die tomorrow, I'm going to be furious with you, I whispered. He laughed, soft and broken. Noted. I mean it. You don't get to tell me all this and then not come back. I'll do everything I can to make sure that doesn't happen. Promise me. Lena, promise me, Adrian, no matter what happens in that warehouse, no matter what they say or do, you survive. You trigger that panic button if you have to. You run if you have to. You do whatever it takes to make it out alive. His forehead dropped to mine, eyes closed. I promise. I'll come back to you. The kiss happened without either of us deciding it would. One moment we were just standing there, breathing the same air, and the next his lips were on mine and I was kissing him back like my life depended on it. It wasn't like Eclipse. That had been reckless, impulsive, fueled by vodka and the need to forget. This was desperate and deliberate and tasted like goodbye, and promises neither of us knew if we could keep. When we broke apart, we were both shaking. That was a bad idea, I said. Terrible idea. You're still my boss. You're still in danger because of me. We should maintain professional boundaries. Absolutely. Neither of us moved. Go home, Adrian said finally. Please, I need to know you're safe tonight. What about you? I'll be fine. Martinez has people watching the building. I'm probably the safest I've been in weeks. That's not saying much. No, it's not. He stepped back, creating distance that felt physically painful. Tomorrow I'll text you when it's over, when I'm safe and they're in custody, and then we can figure out what this is. And if you don't text, then you call Martinez and you move on with your life, knowing you tried to save someone who was maybe always a little too broken to save. You're not broken. Lena, you're not. You're fighting. You're trying. That's the opposite of broken. Something in his expression cracked. I don't deserve you. Good thing I'm not asking for permission. I left before I could kiss him again, before I could beg him not to go tomorrow, before I could fall any deeper into something that might end in 24 hours. The elevator ride down felt like descending from a dream into cold reality. By the time I reached the street, rain had started again, washing the city clean. I didn't go home. Couldn't face my empty apartment, couldn't stand the thought of sitting alone with my thoughts. Instead, I found myself at the same bar where I'd met Maya 2 weeks ago, sliding onto a stool and ordering whiskey I didn't really want. Rough day? I looked up to find the bartender, same guy from that first night, watching me with concern. Something like that. You were here with your friend before, the loud one. Despite everything, I smiled. Maya. Yeah, she's loud. You look worse now than you did then, and that night you looked pretty bad. My life's gotten complicated. Complicated how? Guy trouble? I laughed, sharp and humorless. Among other things. He poured the whiskey, set it in front of me. Word of advice? Complications have a way of either resolving themselves or eating you alive. Doesn't sound like yours is the resolving type. No, it's definitely the eating alive type. Then my next advice is to decide if whatever's complicating your life is worth being eaten alive for. If not, walk away while you still can. I thought about Adrian's face when he promised to come back, about the way he'd kissed me like I was air and he was drowning, about the fact that in less than 24 hours, he'd be in a room with the people who'd already hurt him once, betting everything on a wire and police timing. What if walking away isn't an option anymore? I asked. Then you hold on tight and hope you're strong enough to survive whatever comes next. I raised my glass. Here's to surviving. Here's to surviving, he echoed. The whiskey burned going down, but it was a good burn. A reminder that I was still here, still breathing, still capable of feeling something beyond the fear that had been dogging me for days. My phone buzzed. Adrian, please tell me you're home. Me. Define home. Adrian. Lena. Me. I'm at a bar. Having a drink. Processing. Adrian. Alone? Me. Just me and my complicated thoughts. Adrian. Want company? I stared at that message for a long time. Knew that if he came, if we spent tonight together, there'd be no going back. No pretending we were just boss and assistant, just two people who'd made a mistake in a club. Me. You should rest. Tomorrow's going to be intense. Adrian. I can't sleep anyway. Keep thinking about worst-case scenarios. Me. So you want to think about them with me? Adrian. I want to think about anything else, and you're the only person who makes that possible. My heart did that complicated thing again. Me. Mulligan's, 2 blocks from the office. Adrian. Be there in 10. I ordered another whiskey and tried not to think about what I was doing, about Patricia's warnings and Rebecca's message and the detective's reminder that caring about Adrian was dangerous. But maybe dangerous was worth it. Maybe some people were worth the risk of being eaten alive. Adrian walked in 12 minutes later, still in his work clothes but with his tie gone and his shirt unbuttoned at the collar. He spotted me immediately, crossed the bar, and slid onto the stool beside mine without asking. Whiskey, he told the bartender, whatever she's having. You're supposed to be resting, I said. You're supposed to be home. Guess we're both bad at following orders. Seems to be a pattern with us. The bartender set down Adrian's drink, gave us both a knowing look, and moved to the other end of the bar. To tomorrow, Adrian said, raising his glass. To surviving tomorrow, I corrected. To surviving. We drank. Sat in comfortable silence, broken only by background music and distant conversations. I'm scared, Adrian said finally. Haven't admitted that out loud to anyone, but I'm terrified. That's normal. You'd be crazy not to be scared. I've done a lot of things in my life I'm not proud of, made choices I wish I could take back, but tomorrow feels different, like everything I've been running from is catching up all at once. You're not running anymore. You're fighting back. Fighting back or walking into a trap. Won't know which until it's over. I reached over, laced my fingers through his. You're gonna make it. I know you are. He looked at our joined hands. How can you be so sure? Because you promised me, and I don't think you're the kind of person who breaks promises. I've broken plenty. Not to me. Not yet. He squeezed my hand. No, not to you. We stayed like that for a while, just holding on to each other in a crowded bar where nobody knew us or cared about our complicated situation. Come home with me, Adrian said quietly. My breath caught. Adrian, not like that. I don't want to be alone tonight, and I don't think you do either. He was right. The thought of going back to my empty apartment, lying awake counting down hours until 11 p.m. tomorrow, was unbearable. Okay, I said, but just to sleep, nothing else. Nothing else, he agreed. We finished our drinks, paid the tab, and walked out into the rain together. Adrian's apartment was everything I expected. Expensive, minimalist, windows overlooking the city. What I didn't expect was how empty it felt. Like a hotel room, not a home. Barely any personal items, no photos, nothing that said someone actually lived here beyond the clothes in the closet and toiletries in the bathroom. I know, he said, watching me take it in. It's sterile. I've never been good at making places feel like home. Why not? Because home implies permanence, and I've spent the last 5 years not knowing if I'd live long enough for permanence to matter. The honesty in that statement hurt. You can change that now, after tomorrow. Maybe. He disappeared into the bedroom, came back with a t-shirt and sweatpants. These should fit. Bathroom's through there if you want to change. I took the clothes, locked myself in his bathroom, and tried to process the fact that I was about to spend the night at my boss's apartment wearing his clothes the night before he potentially died in a police raid. My life had officially gone off the rails. When I came out, Adrian had changed too, plain t-shirt and pajama pants that made him look younger, more vulnerable. He'd turned off most of the lights, leaving just the city glow filtering through the windows. Bedroom or couch, he asked. Whichever you prefer. Bedroom's more comfortable, but I don't want you to be uncomfortable. Adrian, we kissed in your office 2 hours ago. Sharing a bed isn't going to make things more complicated than they already are. He smiled slightly. Fair point. The bedroom was as minimalist as the rest of the apartment. King-sized bed, dark sheets, one nightstand with a lamp and a book. I climbed in one side, he took the other, and we lay there in the dark like awkward teenagers. This is weird, I said. Yeah. Should we talk about it? Probably. Neither of us did. Minutes passed. Then Adrian's voice came out of the darkness. Can I hold you? My heart stuttered. Yes. He shifted closer, arm sliding around my waist, pulling me back against his chest. I fit there perfectly, his breath warm against my neck, his heartbeat steady against my spine. Thank you, he whispered, for being here, for not running when anyone with sense would have. Maybe I don't have sense. Or maybe you're exactly what I needed without knowing it. I laced my fingers through his, held on tight. Come back tomorrow, please. Come back and we'll figure out what this is and where it goes. But you have to come back. I will, I promise. I didn't know if he could keep that promise. Didn't know if police timing and wire equipment and careful planning would be enough against people who'd built empires on violence. But lying there in the dark, wrapped in his arms, I let myself believe it. Because the alternative was unthinkable. We didn't sleep much, just held each other while the city moved around us, counting down hours until everything changed. And when my alarm went off at 6 a.m., when we had to get up and face Thursday, neither of us wanted to let go. I should go home, I said. Shower, change, pretend I spent the night alone. Patricia already knows. She always knows everything. Still, maintaining some semblance of professionalism seems important. Does it? He turned me to face him, and in the early morning light I could see everything he was feeling written across his face. Fear and determination, and something softer that made my chest tight. After today, assuming I survive, I'm not sure I care about professional anymore. One crisis at a time, I said, trying to smile. Right. First survive. Then figure out how to date my assistant without HR having a stroke. Dating. Is that what we're doing? What would you call it? Complicated. Everything worth having is complicated. I kissed him then, soft and sweet, a promise for tomorrow. Stay alive. That's all I'm asking. That's all? Okay, and maybe take me to dinner after, somewhere nice. Make this official. Deal. I left his apartment at 6:30, went home and showered and changed and tried to look like someone whose world wasn't balanced on a knife's edge. By the time I got to the office at 8, Adrian was already there, professional, composed. Gave me a nod as I passed that said, last night happened, but today we pretend it didn't. I could work with that. The day crawled. Adrian had meetings he barely focused on, calls he delegated to Patricia, 100 small tasks that needed doing before 11 p.m. I watched him prepare like someone going into battle, and I suppose he was. At 4, Martinez came by one more time. They disappeared into his office for an hour. When she left, she stopped at my desk. He's ready as anyone can be for something like this. Will you keep him safe? We'll do everything we can. But Lena, you should prepare yourself for the possibility that this goes wrong. These operations are unpredictable. People get hurt. Not him. Anyone but him. She studied me with eyes that had seen too much. You care about him. Really care. Is that a problem? No. But it's going to hurt like hell if this doesn't end the way we're hoping. She left me with that comforting thought. At 7, Adrian came out of his office with his jacket on. I'm heading to the staging area. Won't be back tonight. I know. Patricia's locking up. You should go home too. I will. We looked at each other across my desk, both aware we couldn't say what we wanted to say. Not here. Not with Patricia pretending not to listen from 10 feet away. See you tomorrow, Adrian said. Tomorrow, I echoed. He walked to the elevator, pressed the button. The doors opened. He looked back once. I memorized his face, just in case. Then the doors closed, and he was gone. Patricia waited exactly 30 seconds before saying, He's going to be fine. You don't know that. No, but believing it is better than the alternative. I packed up my things, said goodnight, and went home to my apartment to wait. 11 p.m. came and went. Midnight, 12:30. My phone stayed silent. At 12:45, I couldn't take it anymore and called Martinez. It's Lena Carter. I haven't heard anything. Is he... The operation's still active. I can't give you details. But Lena? It's not going as planned. Things got complicated. My blood turned to ice. How complicated? Someone tipped them off. They knew about the wire. We had to move in early. Is Adrian alive? Static. Voices in the background. Then, we're still trying to confirm. The situation's fluid. I'll call you when I know more. Detective, please. I'm sorry. I have to go. The line went dead. I sat on my couch, phone clutched in my hand, and tried to remember how to breathe. Somewhere in the city, in a warehouse I'd never seen, Adrian was either alive or dead, and I had no way to know which. All I could do was wait, and pray that promises made in the dark were strong enough to bring him home. The minutes after Martinez hung up felt like hours. I sat frozen on my couch, staring at my phone, willing it to ring again. Willing her to call back and say it was a mistake, that Adrian was fine, that everything had gone according to plan. But the phone stayed silent. At 1:15 a.m., I couldn't sit anymore. Couldn't breathe in the confined space of my apartment. I grabbed my jacket and keys and headed out into the night. No destination in mind, just needing to move. The streets were mostly empty. A few late-night stragglers stumbling home from bars, a homeless man sleeping in a doorway, the occasional taxi cruising past. I walked without thinking, letting my feet carry me where they wanted. 20 minutes later, I looked up and realized I was standing outside Voss Industries. The building was dark, except for security lights in the lobby. I could see the guard at his desk through the glass, reading something on his phone. Everything looked normal, peaceful, like the world hadn't just tilted sideways. My phone buzzed, and I nearly dropped it. Patricia. Have you heard anything? Me. Martinez called, said it went wrong. Someone tipped them off about the wire. Patricia. Oh, God. Me. She couldn't confirm if he's alive, said the situation's fluid. Patricia. Where are you? Me. Outside the building. I couldn't stay home. Patricia. I'm coming. Don't move. She showed up 15 minutes later in yoga pants and a sweatshirt, hair pulled back, no makeup. I'd never seen her look so human. Any updates? She asked. Nothing. Did you try calling him? Goes straight to voicemail. We stood side by side on the empty sidewalk, two women who had nothing in common except caring about a man who might already be dead. He was supposed to text me when it was over, I said. Promised he would. Adrian's good at promises. Less good at keeping them when things go sideways. That's not helping. Sorry. Nervous talking. She pulled out her phone, dialed a number. I'm calling my contact at the precinct. She owes me a favor. I listened to her negotiate, cajole, and finally demand information. Watched her face go pale. Thanks. Yeah. Call me if anything changes. She hung up, and I knew before she spoke that it was bad. There was a shootout. Multiple casualties on both sides. Adrian triggered the panic button early, which is why they had to move in before they were ready. Building caught fire during the confrontation. It's chaos down there. Is he alive? They don't know. Some people got out, some are still unaccounted for. They're searching the building now, but the fire's making it difficult. My legs gave out. I sat down hard on the curb, head between my knees, trying not to throw up. Patricia sat beside me. He's survived worse. He's resourceful, smart. He knows how to get out of tight situations. He shouldn't have had to survive this at all. This was supposed to be safe. Police protection, careful planning. Nothing involving Adrian's past was ever going to be safe. You knew that. She was right. I had known, but knowing something intellectually and feeling it gut you in real time were different things. I can't lose him, I whispered. Not now, not after everything. Then don't. Believe he's alive until you have proof otherwise. We sat there on this curb outside the building where I'd first discovered my boss was the stranger from the club, where I'd watched him build walls and slowly let me pass them, where everything had started. At 2 a.m., Patricia's phone rang. She answered immediately. Yes? Uh-huh. Okay. Which hospital? She grabbed my arm. We're on our way. What? What happened? They found him. He's alive. Barely, but alive. They're taking him to St. Catherine's. I was already running toward the street, arm raised for a taxi. One pulled over and we both climbed in. St. Catherine's Hospital, Patricia told the driver. Emergency entrance. Fast. The ride took 15 minutes that felt like 15 years. Patricia tried calling her contact back for more details, but the line was busy. I stared out the window and counted streetlights, focusing on anything except the terror churning in my gut. The hospital's emergency entrance was chaos. Ambulances, police cars, news vans already setting up. We pushed through the crowd to the reception desk. Adrian Voss, Patricia said. He was just brought in from the warehouse incident. The nurse checked her computer. Are you family? I'm his executive assistant. I'm his girlfriend, I said, the lie coming easily. Please, is he okay? The nurse's expression softened slightly. He's in surgery. That's all I can tell you right now. There's a waiting room on the 4th floor. Someone will update you when there's news. We took the elevator up in silence. The waiting room was already crowded. Other people connected to the raid, maybe. Criminals' families, police officers' loved ones, all of us trapped in the same purgatory. Patricia found 2 empty chairs in the corner. We sat. Girlfriend, she said quietly. Seemed like the thing to say. Is it true? I thought about the night at his apartment, the way we'd held each other in the dark. His promise to take me to dinner after this was over. I don't know what we are, but I know I can't pretend he's just my boss anymore. Fair enough? A detective I didn't recognize came over around 2:30. You're here for Adrian Voss? Yes, we said in unison. I'm Detective Chen. I was part of the tactical team tonight. Adrian saved a lot of lives by triggering that panic button when he did. We think one of the organization's members searched him, found the wire. Things went bad fast. Adrian fought back, gave us time to breach the building, but he took 2 bullets in the process. The world tilted. 2 bullets. One in the shoulder, one grazed his side. He also has smoke inhalation from the fire and some burns on his hands. But the doctors think he'll pull through. He's strong, fought like hell to stay conscious until we got him out. Can we see him? Not until he's out of surgery. But I wanted you to know what he did tonight took real courage. We got everyone we were after. The entire operation's been dismantled. Adrian's testimony, combined with what we seized from the warehouse, is going to put these people away for decades. At what cost? I asked. Detective Chen looked at me with tired eyes. at whatever cost it takes to stop people who destroy lives for profit. Adrian understood that. That's why he went through with it, even knowing the risks. He left us with that cold comfort. 3 a.m. came and went. 4. Patricia dozed off in her chair. I couldn't even close my eyes. Just sat there, replaying every conversation, every moment, every touch, trying to prepare myself for the possibility that the surgery wouldn't be enough, that I'd lose him anyway after he'd survived the bullets and the fire and everything else. At 4:30, a surgeon in scrubs approached. "Family for Adrian Voss?" I stood up so fast I almost fell over. Patricia jerked awake beside me. I'm his girlfriend. This is his assistant." The surgeon looked between us, decided not to question it. "He's out of surgery. It went well, all things considered. We removed the bullet from his shoulder and repaired the damage. The graze wound was superficial. The burns are second degree, painful, but treatable. The smoke inhalation is our biggest concern right now." His lungs took a beating. "But he's alive. He's alive, stable. We're moving him to ICU for observation. He'll be sedated for at least the next 12 hours to let his body start healing." "When can we see him?" "ICU has restricted visiting hours, but given the circumstances, I can allow brief visits, one at a time, 5 minutes each." Patricia gestured for me to go first. I followed the surgeon through a maze of hallways to a unit that smelled like antiseptic and fear. Adrian was in the 3rd room. The sight of him stopped me in the doorway. He looked small in the hospital bed, hooked up to machines that beeped and hummed. His shoulder was bandaged, an IV in his arm, oxygen mask over his face, bruises already forming along his jaw and cheekbone. His hands were wrapped in gauze, but his chest rose and fell steadily. He was breathing. He was alive. I crossed to the bed, carefully took his unbandaged forearm in my hand. His skin was warm. "You promised you'd come back," I whispered. "And you did. You actually did." He didn't respond. Couldn't, sedated as he was. But I sat there for my 5 minutes, just holding on to him, letting myself believe the worst was over. When the nurse finally made me leave, Patricia went in. I paced the waiting room, too wired to sit, too exhausted to think straight. Patricia emerged looking shaken. "He looks terrible, but alive. But alive," she agreed. We found a different waiting area with slightly more comfortable chairs. Patricia called the office, left a message that Adrian was in the hospital and she'd be handling everything for the foreseeable future. I texted Maya that I was okay but couldn't talk yet. As the sun started rising outside the windows, Detective Martinez finally showed up. "I heard you two were here," she said, looking as exhausted as I felt. "Wanted to give you an update directly." "We heard about the surgery," Patricia said. "Good, but there's more you should know." She sat down across from us. The person who tipped off the organization about the wire was a junior analyst in our department. Someone Adrian had never met, never spoke to, who had access to operational briefings. He sold the information for $50,000. "You have a mole in your own department," I said flatly. "Had. He's in custody, but it explains how they knew to search Adrian. They were prepared for him to be wired. And Adrian knew. That's why he triggered the panic button. Yes, the moment they found the wire, he pressed it. Drew their attention, let them focus on him while our teams breached. 3 of the organization's top members pulled weapons. Adrian was shot trying to take cover. He still managed to tackle one of them before our people got in. Patricia made a sound between a laugh and a sob. Of course he did. Can't just protect himself. Has to be a hero. That hero saved 6 other people who were in that warehouse, including 2 undercover officers who'd been embedded in the organization for months. Martinez leaned forward. "I know this whole thing was a nightmare. I know it didn't go the way any of us planned, but the outcome stands. The organization is finished, Adrian's free, and he's alive." "Barely," I said. "Barely counts. I've seen operations go a lot worse." She left after giving us her direct number in case we needed anything. The hospital started waking up around us. Shift changes, breakfast carts, doctors making rounds. At 8 a.m., a nurse told us Adrian was being moved to a regular room. Still serious condition, but stable enough that ICU wasn't necessary. We could visit more freely now, though he'd likely sleep most of the day. The new room was quieter, less machinery. Adrian looked the same, unconscious, battered, but breathing steadily. I pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down. Patricia took the other chair. "You should go home," I told her. "Shower, sleep. I'll stay." "Are you sure?" "Yeah. He'd want someone here when he wakes up. Might as well be me." She studied me for a moment. "You love him." It wasn't a question. "I think I might," I admitted. Which is insane. I've known him 2 months. Most of that time he was my boss, and half of it he was lying about midnight meetings with criminals. Love doesn't follow timelines or logic. If it did, the world would be a lot simpler. When did you get philosophical? Sleep deprivation makes me honest. She stood, squeezed my shoulder. "Call me if anything changes, otherwise I'll be back tonight." She left me alone with Adrian and the steady beep of monitors. I must have dozed off at some point because I jerked awake to the sound of Adrian coughing. His eyes were still closed, but his face was scrunched in pain, the oxygen mask fogging with each labored breath. A nurse came in immediately, checked his vitals, adjusted something on the IV. "Is he waking up?" I asked. "Not yet, just reflexive responses. The sedation should keep him under for a few more hours." She made a note on her chart. "You his girlfriend?" "Yeah." "He's lucky to have you. Most people don't stay this long." After she left, I moved my chair closer, carefully took his hand again. "I don't know if you can hear me," I said quietly, "but I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. And when you wake up, we're going to have that conversation about you making decisions without asking me, because this..." I gestured at the hospital room. "This was the worst decision yet." His fingers twitched slightly, probably just a reflex, but I chose to believe he'd heard me. The day passed in a strange limbo. Nurses came and went. Doctors checked on him. Martinez called twice for updates. Patricia texted every hour. Maya sent increasingly worried messages that I responded to with minimal detail. Around 4 p.m., Adrian started moving more. His head turned, hand flexing, small sounds escaping despite the sedation. The doctor came in at 4:30. "He's fighting the sedation. That's actually a good sign. Means his body's ready to wake up. We're going to reduce the dosage, let him surface naturally. Should be conscious within the next few hours." My heart jumped. "And he'll be okay?" "He's not out of the woods yet. Recovery from gunshot wounds is unpredictable, but his vitals are strong. Barring complications, he should make a full recovery. Going to be painful for a while, though." The doctor left. I sat back down and waited. At 5:43 p.m., Adrian's eyes opened. He blinked slowly, confused, trying to focus. His gaze swept the room, landed on me, and stopped. "Hey," I said, voice breaking. "Welcome back." He tried to speak, but the oxygen mask muffled it. His hand came up weakly, and I understood. He wanted it off. I pressed the call button for the nurse. She came in, assessed him, and carefully removed the mask. "Just for a few minutes. Your oxygen levels are good enough for now, but if you start struggling, it goes back on." "Understood," Adrian rasped, voice wrecked. The nurse left, giving us privacy. "You look terrible," I said. "Because what else do you say to someone who'd been shot twice and nearly burned alive?" "Feel terrible." Each word seemed to hurt. "But alive." "Barely. You scared the hell out of me." "Sorry. Don't apologize. Just don't do it again." He almost smiled. "Deal." We looked at each other, and everything we hadn't said hung in the air between us. "They told me you triggered the panic button early," I said. "Saved a lot of people." "Someone had to." "It didn't have to be you." "Yes, it did." He coughed, winced. "My mess, my responsibility to clean it up. At the cost of 2 bullets and second-degree burns. Could have been worse. Adrian, you almost died. But I didn't." His eyes found mine. "Because I promised you I'd come back. And I keep my promises to you." My throat went tight. "That's not fair. You can't almost die and then say sweet things. I'm too tired to process both." "Then just process one. I'm alive. We survived. Everything else can wait." A tear slipped down my cheek before I could stop it. Then another. Then I was crying in earnest, all the fear and terror and relief pouring out at once. Adrian's hand found mine, squeezed weakly. Hey, it's okay. I'm okay. You're not okay. You're in a hospital bed with bullet wounds and burned hands. Fair point, but I'm alive. And you're here. That makes everything else bearable. I wiped my eyes with my free hand. I'm furious with you. You know that, right? Yeah, I got that impression. Good. Because when you're out of here, when you're healed, we're going to have a very long conversation about trust and communication and not making unilateral decisions that could get you killed. Looking forward to it. Liar. He smiled for real this time, despite the pain it clearly caused. Maybe a little. But Lena? I meant what I said before all this. About you. About us. Nothing that happened last night changed that. Everything that happened last night changed everything. Not the important things. Not how I feel about you. A nurse poked her med in. Sorry to interrupt, but he needs rest. You can come back during visiting hours tomorrow. Can I have 5 more minutes? I asked. She looked at Adrian's vitals, then nodded. 5 minutes. Then he needs to sleep. When she left, I stood up, leaned carefully over the bed, and kissed Adrian's forehead. Get some rest. Doctor's orders. You'll come back tomorrow? Try to keep me away. His eyes were already drifting closed, exhaustion and pain medication pulling him under. Lena? Yeah? Thank you for staying, for not running. Where else would I be? He didn't answer. Sleep had already claimed him. I left the hospital as the sun was setting, took an Uber home, and collapsed on my couch, still wearing yesterday's clothes. My phone had died hours ago. When I plugged it in, messages flooded in. Maya, Patricia, even a few from colleagues who'd heard something had happened. I responded to Patricia first. He's awake, talking, going to be okay. Her response was immediate. Thank God. Get some sleep. You look like death. Maya's messages were more frantic. I called her. Where the hell have you been? She demanded. I was about to file a missing person report. Hospital. My boss was hurt. Your boss, the guy from the club. Yeah. Jesus, Lena. What happened? I gave her the sanitized version. Adrian had been involved in helping police with an investigation. Things went wrong. He was shot, but stable. And you spent the last 24 hours at the hospital because he's just your boss. Maya. No, I get it. You don't have to explain. Just promise me you're okay. I'm okay. Exhausted and emotionally wrecked, but okay. Do you need me to come over? No, I need to sleep for about 16 hours and then figure out what comes next. Well, when you're ready to talk, I'm here. We hung up. I took a long shower, finally changed into clean clothes, and fell into bed. Sleep came immediately, heavy and dreamless. I woke up 14 hours later to sunlight streaming through my windows and my phone ringing. Patricia. He's asking for you, she said without preamble. What time is it? Almost noon. Visiting hours started at 10. I've been here since then, but he keeps asking when you're coming. I'll be there in an hour. I threw on jeans and a sweater, grabbed coffee from the shop downstairs, and headed to the hospital. The city looked different in daylight, normal, peaceful, like the chaos of Thursday night had never happened. But it had. And everything was different now. Patricia was in the hallway outside Adrian's room when I arrived. Fair warning, he's in a mood. What kind of mood? The kind where he's in pain but refuses to admit it and is taking it out on everyone around him. 3 nurses have already threatened to sedate him again. That bad? You'll see. I knocked once and went in. Adrian was sitting up slightly, looking significantly better than yesterday, but still pale and drawn. He had his phone in his good hand, scowling at the screen. You're supposed to be resting, I said. Can't rest. Too much work piling up. Adrian, the Moreno deal is falling apart because I'm not there to close it. The board is panicking about the news coverage, and someone leaked to the press that I was shot, so now my phone won't stop ringing with reporters wanting statements. I took the phone from his hand and set it on the table out of reach. None of that matters right now. It all matters. The company will survive a few days without you. Patricia's handling everything. The board can wait, and reporters can pound sand. I sat down in the chair I'd occupied yesterday. You were shot, twice. You get to take a break. I don't know how to take a break? Then learn. We stared at each other, both stubborn, both unwilling to give ground. Finally, Adrian sighed. I'm sorry, you're right. I'm being impossible. Yes, you are. But I understand why. Do you? You're scared. Being out of control terrifies you. So you're trying to control what you can, work, schedules, anything that makes you feel less vulnerable. He looked away. I hate hospitals. Hate being dependent on other people. Hate feeling weak. You're not weak. You're recovering. There's a difference. Doesn't feel different. I reached out, carefully took his unbandaged hand. What happened Thursday night? It's over. The organization's dismantled. The people who wanted to pull you back are in custody. You're free, Adrian. Actually free. But you have to let yourself heal before you can figure out what that freedom looks like. His fingers tightened around mine. I keep replaying it. The moment they found the wire. The look in their eyes when they realized I'd betrayed them. I thought I was dead. Genuinely thought that was it. But it wasn't. No. I triggered the button and then everything went to hell. Gunshots, people screaming, smoke everywhere. I remember hitting the ground, pain in my shoulder, someone dragging me toward the exit. Then nothing, until I woke up here. The person dragging you was Detective Chen. He said you fought back, gave them time to breach the building. I don't remember that part. Adrenaline, probably. Your body did what it needed to survive. He was quiet for a moment. When I was lying there, bleeding, thinking I might not make it, all I could think about was you. That I'd promised to come back and I might not be able to keep that promise. My throat tightened. But you did. You're here. Barely. Barely counts. He almost smiled at that. Martinez said the same thing. She's smart. So are you. For staying, for caring about someone as complicated as me. You're worth the complication. Am I? I leaned forward carefully. Adrian, listen to me. You spent years trapped in a life you didn't choose, trying to build something good from something terrible. You risked everything to get out, to do the right thing even when it almost killed you. If that's not worth caring about, I don't know what is. He pulled me closer with his good arm, pressed his forehead to mine. I don't know what I did to deserve you. You didn't have to do anything. You just had to be you. We stayed like that until a nurse came in to check his vitals and give him more pain medication. He fought it initially, but I convinced him it was okay to sleep, that I'd be there when he woke up. As his eyes drifted closed, he mumbled, "Don't leave." I won't. I promise." Patricia came in a few minutes later, found me sitting beside his bed, watching him sleep. "You've got it bad," she observed. "Is it that obvious?" "Only to everyone with eyes." She set down a bag. "Brought you lunch. Figured you forgot to eat again." "Thanks." We ate in companionable silence, both keeping watch over a man who'd somehow become important to us in different ways. "What happens now?" I asked eventually. "With the company? With everything?" "Short term? I keep things running. Long term? That's up to Adrian. He'll need to address the board, deal with the publicity, figure out how to move forward without that shadow hanging over him. Think he can? Adrian? He survived worse. This is just the next challenge." The days that followed fell into a rhythm. I'd go to work for a few hours, handle the essentials, then spend the rest of the day at the hospital. Patricia managed the bigger issues. The board was surprisingly understanding once they heard the full story, or at least the version we could tell them. Adrian improved steadily. The burns on his hands healed. The shoulder wound showed no signs of infection. His lungs cleared. By the end of the first week, doctors were talking about discharge. By the second week, he was itching to leave. "I'm fine," he insisted during rounds. "I can recover at home just as easily." "Mr. Voss, you were shot, twice, and suffered significant smoke inhalation. We want to monitor you for at least another week." "That's excessive." The doctor looked at me. "Can you talk sense into him?" "I can try, but he's stubborn." After the doctor left, I fixed Adrian with a look. "Stop fighting them. They're trying to help." "I'm tired of being here, tired of feeling useless." "You're not useless. You're healing. There's a difference." "You keep saying that." Because you keep forgetting. He sighed, leaned back against the pillows. I just want to go home, be in my own space, start figuring out what normal looks like now that I'm not looking over my shoulder constantly. Normal can wait another week. Can it? The board wants answers. Investors are nervous, and the press won't stop calling. Patricia's handling the press, the board can wait, and investors will calm down once they see the company's still profitable. I sat on the edge of his bed carefully. Adrian, you spent 5 years building something legitimate while managing impossible pressure. You can take 2 weeks to recover without everything falling apart. He reached for my hand. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You were just too busy being complicated to notice. That got a real smile out of him. Fair enough. Detective Martinez visited that afternoon with the news. We've officially charged everyone involved. The trial won't be for months, but with your testimony and the evidence we seized, it's a solid case. Your lawyers should be pleased. And the mole, the analyst who sold the information? Charged with obstruction, conspiracy, and a half-dozen other counts. He's cooperating now, hoping for a reduced sentence. Gave us additional intel about corruption in the department. So this goes deeper than just one person. It always does, but that's our problem, not yours. You've done your part. After she left, Adrian was quiet. What are you thinking? I asked. That it's really over. They're in custody, facing real consequences. I don't have to go to those meetings anymore. Don't have to consult or provide services or walk that line between legal and not. He looked at me. For the first time in 5 years, I'm actually free. How does it feel? Terrifying. I don't know who I am without that weight. Then we'll figure it out together. He pulled me closer, kissed me softly despite the nurse who walked in and immediately walked back out. Together, he repeated. I like the sound of that. On day 12, the doctors finally agreed to discharge him with strict instructions for rest and follow-up appointments. Patricia arranged for a car service. I packed up the flowers and cards that had accumulated in his room. Adrian stood by the window in the clothes Patricia had brought, jeans, a soft sweater, nothing like his usual suits. He looked younger, more vulnerable. Ready? I asked, as I'll ever be. The ride to his apartment was quiet. He stared out the window, watching the city pass by, maybe seeing it differently now that he wasn't running from his past. His apartment was exactly as we'd left it. Patricia had arranged for cleaning service and stocked the fridge, everything spotless and ready. Adrian walked to the windows, looked out at the view he'd seen 1,000 times. Feels different, he said. What does? This place. Like it might actually be a home now, instead of just where I sleep. I came up beside him. Want help making it feel more like home? Yeah, I really do. We spent the rest of the day just existing in the space together, ordered takeout, watched television, did normal things that felt revolutionary after everything we'd been through. As night fell and the city lit up below us, Adrian turned to me. I owe you a dinner, somewhere nice, making this official. You just got out of the hospital. Doesn't change what I promised. How about we start with this? Takeout and bad TV in your apartment. Work our way up to nice dinners. That works too. He pulled me into his good arm. Thank you for everything. For staying through all of this chaos. Where else would I be? Anywhere safer. Safe is overrated. He laughed softly. Only you would say that after everything we've been through. We stood at the windows together as night deepened, two people who'd survived the impossible and were finally free to figure out what came next. It wasn't perfect. Adrian still had recovery ahead. The trial would bring everything back up, and we had to figure out how to navigate a relationship that started with lies and danger. But we were alive, together. And for now, that was enough. The first month after Adrian came home was harder than either of us expected. Not because of us, but because healing turned out to be more complicated than just letting wounds close. Adrian couldn't drive with his shoulder still in a sling, couldn't dress himself properly some mornings when the stiffness was bad, couldn't work the 16-hour days he was used to because his body physically wouldn't let him. And that powerlessness ate at him in ways the bullets hadn't. I'd moved into his apartment without discussing it, really. Just started staying over more nights than not, bringing clothes and toiletries until half my closet lived in his spare bedroom. He never asked me to leave. I never offered. Patricia covered the office with brutal efficiency, but the board was getting restless. They wanted Adrian back, wanted reassurance that the scandal wouldn't sink the company. The story had broken in the press. CEO helps dismantle criminal organization he'd been forced to work with, and while some outlets painted him as a hero, others questioned his judgment and past involvement. 3 weeks after his discharge, Adrian sat at his dining table buried in legal documents, laptop open, phone on speaker with his attorney. The deposition is scheduled for next month, the lawyer was saying. They'll ask about every interaction you had with the organization over the past 5 years, every meeting, every deal, every dollar that moved through your hands. I know, Adrian said, rubbing his face with his good hand. I was there for all of it. And you need to be prepared for them to twist everything. Make it sound like you were a willing participant, not someone under duress. I understand how testimony works, Richard. I'm just saying this won't be easy. The defense will come at you hard. After he hung up, Adrian sat there staring at nothing. I brought him coffee, sat down across from him. You okay? Define okay. You've been saying that a lot lately, because I don't have a better answer. He took the coffee but didn't drink it. I spent 5 years doing things I'm not proud of, helping people I despised because it was safer than saying no. And now I have to stand in court and explain all of it while they try to make me look like a criminal. You're not a criminal. You are surviving. The line between those things is thinner than you'd think. Adrian, what if they're right, Lena? What if I'm not the good guy in this story? What if I'm just someone who made bad choices and is now trying to rewrite history? I reached across the table, made him look at me. You risked your life to stop them. Got shot twice wearing a wire. That's not rewriting history. That's paying for past choices with everything you had. Doesn't erase what I did before. No, but it matters. Intent matters. Context matters. You were a kid when your father pulled you into that world. You did what you had to do to survive. And when you finally had a chance to get out, you took it even knowing what it might cost. He was quiet for a long moment. Sometimes I wonder if I deserve you, after everything. That's not how this works. I'm not some prize you earn. I'm just someone who saw past the walls you built and decided you were worth knowing. The real you, not the version you show the world. The real me is more broken than you think. Everyone's broken. The question is whether you're trying to heal or just hiding the cracks. He almost smiled at that. When did you become a philosopher? When I fell for someone complicated who makes me think too much. The word fell hung between us. I'd said it without thinking, but it was true. Somewhere between the club and the hospital and all the chaos in between, I'd fallen for Adrian Voss completely. His eyes softened. You fell for me? Don't make me say it again. Why not? Because it's terrifying and you're still my boss technically, and this whole thing violates about 17 HR policies. So quit. I blinked. What? Quit. Work somewhere else. Take that job offer from Morgan Stanley you got last week. How do you know about that? Patricia told me, said they were offering you 40% more than we're paying. I'm not interested. You should be. Better money, better opportunities, and you wouldn't be sleeping with your boss. I like sleeping with my boss. He laughed, real and surprised. Yeah? Yeah. Even when he's being difficult and philosophical and refusing to see that he's worth caring about. Adrian stood up, came around the table, and pulled me up into his good arm. I love you, in case that wasn't clear. My heart did something complicated. That's the pain medication talking. Haven't taken any today? This is just me, being honest. He kissed my forehead. I love you, Lena Carter. Have since you walked into my office that first day and looked at me like you could see through all my careful control. You didn't love me then. You barely knew me. I knew enough. Knew you were dangerous. Knew you were going to complicate everything. Knew I was in trouble. And yet you kept me around. Best decision I ever made. I kissed him then, careful of his shoulder, and let myself believe we might actually make it through everything intact. The board meeting happened 2 days later. Adrian insisted on going despite still being on medical leave. Patricia and I tried to talk him out of it, but he was immovable. They need to see I'm still capable of running this company, he said, struggling with his tie one-handed. That what happened doesn't change my ability to lead. I took the tie from him, did it properly. They also need to see you're human, that you survived something traumatic and are still recovering. Vulnerability doesn't inspire confidence in leadership. Honesty does. He looked at me in the mirror. Come with me. To the board meeting? Adrian, I'm your assistant. That's not, you're more than my assistant. You're the person who kept this office running while I was in the hospital, who fielded calls and managed crises and made sure everything didn't fall apart. The board should meet you properly. This feels like a terrible idea. Most of my best ideas feel terrible at first. So I found myself 2 hours later sitting in Voss Industries' executive boardroom, surrounded by 10 people who controlled billions in investments and had serious questions about their CEO's judgment. Adrian stood at the head of the table, sling still visible under his suit jacket, looking every bit the leader despite the obvious signs of injury. I know you have concerns, he started, about the publicity, about my involvement with the organization, about whether this company can weather the scandal. I'm here to address all of it. Perhaps you could start, one board member said coolly, by explaining why we're learning about your criminal connections from news outlets rather than from you directly. Because until 3 months ago, I couldn't tell you without putting you in danger. The organization I was connected to doesn't tolerate exposure. Anyone who knew about my involvement became leverage they could use against me. And yet you involved your assistant. The board member nodded at me. Put her at risk. Ms. Carter became involved by accident. And yes, I should have distanced her immediately. But I didn't, because I needed someone I could trust. That was selfish. But it was also necessary. Necessary to risk an employee's safety? Necessary to have one person who knew the truth, who could handle things if the situation went wrong. Adrian's voice stayed level, which it did, and Ms. Carter handled it, kept this office operational, managed the fallout, and ensured that when I was in the hospital fighting for my life, Voss Industries didn't implode. Several board members looked at me with new interest. Another member spoke up. The publicity is damaging our reputation. Investors are nervous. How do you plan to address that? By being transparent. By showing that I'm not hiding from my past, I'm actively working to make amends for it. I'm testifying against everyone involved, providing evidence that will put them away for decades. And I'm restructuring the company to ensure no shadow of that organization ever touches Voss Industries again. That's a nice speech, but speeches don't reassure shareholders. No, results do. Which is why I'm proposing we bring in an external audit. Full review of every deal, every investment, every transaction made in the last 5 years. If there's any question about the legitimacy of our operations, we address it head on. The room went quiet. That's aggressive, someone finally said, and expensive. It's necessary. We can't move forward while people question our integrity, so we prove our integrity. Publicly. Thoroughly. No matter what it costs. The meeting lasted 3 hours. By the end, the board had agreed to the external audit, a restructuring of several divisions, and a public statement supporting Adrian's cooperation with law enforcement. When we finally left, Adrian was pale and exhausted. That went better than expected, Patricia said in the elevator. They're still nervous, Adrian said. Of course they are, but you gave them a path forward. That's what they needed. Back at the office, Adrian collapsed in his chair while I made coffee neither of us would drink. Thank you, he said, for being there. I didn't do anything. You sat there and let them see I have people who believe in me. That matters more than you think. They asked good questions. They did, and I didn't have great answers for all of them. He leaned back, closed his eyes. This is going to get worse before it gets better. The trial, the depositions, all of it. Media's going to dig into everything. So we deal with it together. I don't want you caught in the crossfire. Little late for that. I'm already here. He opened his eyes, looked at me. You could still leave. Take that Morgan Stanley job. Start fresh somewhere without all this baggage. I could, but I'm not going to. Why not? Because running away when things get hard isn't who I am. I thought I learned that when my ex dumped me, but I didn't really understand it until now. The easy choice isn't always the right choice. Sometimes the right choice is standing beside someone and fighting through the mess together. Well, even when that someone comes with criminal connections and bullet wounds? Especially then. He pulled me down onto his lap carefully, mindful of his shoulder. I love you. More than I thought I was capable of loving anyone. Good. Because you're stuck with me now. Stuck. That's romantic. I'm not good at romantic. I'm good at honest. I'll take honest over romantic any day. The weeks that followed were a blur of legal preparation, media management, and slow recovery. Adrian's shoulder healed enough that he could work from the office again, though he tired easily and still couldn't lift anything heavy. The external audit began, turning the company upside down. Every file examined, every deal questioned, every transaction traced. It was invasive and stressful and exactly what was needed to clear Voss Industries' name. I officially quit my position as Adrian's assistant and took a role heading up investor relations instead. Patricia took over full-time as Adrian's right hand. It made things cleaner, separated our professional and personal lives in a way that satisfied HR and let us stop pretending. Maya was thrilled when I finally told her everything. So let me get this straight, she said over drinks one night. The guy from the club was actually your boss, who was actually working with criminals, who actually got shot saving people, and you've actually been dating him this whole time. That's the short version. And you didn't tell me any of this because it was too complicated to explain and I was barely keeping my head above water. She shook her head. Your life is insane. You know that, right? Yeah, I'm aware. But you're happy? I thought about Adrian, about the way he'd stopped hiding behind walls, how he smiled more easily now, how we'd started actually building a life together instead of just surviving. Yeah, I'm happy. Then that's all that matters. Even if your boyfriend is dramatic as hell, he's really not. Life around him is dramatic. He's just trying to get through it. Sounds like you're defending him. I am, because people keep acting like he's the villain when he's actually the person who risked everything to do the right thing. Maya studied me over her martini. You really love him. Yeah, I really do. Then I'm happy for you, even if I still think you're both crazy. The deposition happened in March. Adrian spent 2 full days answering questions, recounting meetings, explaining decisions. I wasn't allowed in the room, but I waited in the hallway with Patricia and his legal team. When he finally emerged after day 2, he looked wrung out. How bad? I asked. They tried to make every choice I made sound criminal. Every meeting, every consultation, every dollar that moved through my accounts. Richard kept objecting, but some of it stuck. Did you tell the truth? All of it, everything they asked, even the parts that made me look bad. His lawyer, Richard, came out behind him. You did well. Better than expected. They threw everything at you, and you didn't break. Didn't feel that way. It never does, but your testimony was solid, consistent. When this goes to trial, you'll hold up. The trial was scheduled for May, 3 months away. 3 months of waiting and preparing and trying to move forward while the past kept pulling backward. But something shifted after the deposition. Adrian stopped fighting the process and started accepting it. Started seeing the trial not as something to dread, but as the final step to real freedom. I keep thinking about what you said, he told me one night. We were at his place, our place now really, since I'd officially moved in. About healing versus hiding the cracks. What about it? I've been hiding for so long, pretending the past didn't hurt, that I could just outrun it by building something legitimate. But you can't outrun trauma. You have to face it, process it, let it scar instead of keeping it as an open wound. That's very therapeutic of you. I started seeing someone, a therapist. Patricia recommended her. I turned to look at him. Really? Don't sound so surprised. I'm not. I'm proud of you. It's weird, talking about everything, but also kind of helpful. She says I've been operating in survival mode for years, and now I have to learn how to actually live. How's that going? Still figuring it out, but having you helps. You make living feel less like something I have to survive and more like something worth doing. I kissed him, soft and slow. You make it worth doing for me, too. The trial started on a Monday in May. The courthouse was packed with reporters, cameras, protesters both supporting and condemning Adrian. We pushed through to the entrance, security escorting us past the chaos. Inside, the courtroom was formal and cold. Adrian sat at the prosecution's table with Richard and the district attorney. I sat in the gallery with Patricia and Martinez, watching everything unfold. The prosecution presented their case first. Evidence from the warehouse raid, financial records, recordings from wiretaps. They called witnesses, police officers, forensic accountants, people who'd been victimized by the organization. Then they called Adrian. He walked to the stand in a dark suit, hand raised, voice steady as he swore to tell the truth. For 3 hours, he laid it all out. His father's business, being pulled in as a teenager, the deals he'd made, the compromises he'd accepted. He didn't make excuses. Didn't try to paint himself as innocent. Just explained the reality of being trapped between impossible choices. "I'm not proud of what I did," he said at one point. "I helped people I knew were destroying lives, laundered money that came from drugs and violence. And I told myself it was okay because I was building something legitimate on the side. But that was a lie. Nothing about it was okay." "Then why did you do it?" the prosecutor asked. "Because saying no meant dying, or watching people I cared about die. The organization doesn't accept defection. If you're in until they decide otherwise. I spent 5 years trying to find a way out that didn't end with me in the ground." "And you found that way?" "Detective Martinez gave me an option. Help dismantle the organization from the inside, provide testimony, and walk away clean. It wasn't safe, wasn't guaranteed, but it was the first real chance I'd had." "So you took it?" "Yes." The defense tried to tear him apart during cross-examination, questioned his motives, his timeline, suggested he was only cooperating to avoid prosecution himself. Adrian stayed calm, answered every question directly, never wavered. When he finally stepped down, he looked at me once. I nodded. He'd done it. Told the truth no matter how much it hurt. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Dozens of witnesses, hundreds of pieces of evidence, arguments that stretched for hours. I attended every day I could, watching justice happen slowly and imperfectly. The jury deliberated for 2 days. When they came back, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts for every member of the organization, decades in prison. No chance of parole. Adrian sat perfectly still as the verdicts were read, hands folded on the table. When it was over, when the judge dismissed the court, he just sat there. I made my way through the crowd to him. "It's done. Really done." "Yeah," he said quietly. "It is." Outside, reporters mobbed us with questions. Adrian gave a brief statement, thanked law enforcement, expressed hope that justice had been served, asked for privacy moving forward. Then we got in a car and left, putting the courthouse and the trial and all of it behind us. That night, we went back to Eclipse. It was Adrian's idea. "Where it started," he said. "Seems right to come back now that it's really over." The club was just as loud and dark and overwhelming as I remembered. We found a spot at the bar, ordered drinks we didn't really want. "Last time we were here, I didn't know your name," I said. "Last time we were here, I was trying to forget who I was. And now?" "Now I'm trying to figure out who I want to be." The bartender set down our drinks. Adrian raised his glass. "To new beginnings." "To surviving long enough to have them," I corrected. We drank. The music pounded around us, bass thrumming through the floor. "Dance with me," Adrian said. "You hated dancing that night." "I didn't hate it. I was just pretending to hate it because admitting I wanted to stay with you felt dangerous." "And now? Now I'm done pretending." He pulled me onto the floor, wrapped his arms around me. "Now I just want to be here with you. No secrets, no lies, just us." We moved together in the darkness, and it felt different than that first night. Less desperate, less like escape, more like choosing each other deliberately, knowing exactly what we were getting into. When we finally left the club around 2 a.m., the city was quiet. We walked back to Adrian's apartment hand in hand. No rush, just existing in the moment. "I'm stepping back from the company," Adrian said suddenly. "What?" "Not leaving entirely, but reducing my role. I'm promoting Patricia to COO. She'll handle day-to-day operations. I'll focus on strategic direction, board relations, the bigger picture." "Why?" "Because I've spent years defining myself by what I built, by success and money, and proving I was more than my father's son. And I am more than that. But I'm also more than just the CEO of Voss Industries. He stopped, turned to face me. I want to actually live, Lena, not just work. Want to travel, have hobbies, spend time with you without my phone ringing every 5 minutes. You're serious. Completely. I'm tired of surviving, ready to start actually living. I kissed him right there on the sidewalk, not caring who saw. I love you. Have I mentioned that? Once or twice. But I don't mind hearing it again. I love you, Adrian Voss, complicated past and all. I love you too, more than I thought I was capable of. We made it back to the apartment, tangled together on the couch, talking until the sun started coming up. Talked about the future, about what we wanted, about how to build something real from everything we'd survived. Move in with me, Adrian said as dawn light filtered through the windows. Officially, not just your stuff gradually taking over my space. Actually move in. I basically already live here, so make it official. Okay. Yeah, let's do this properly. He pulled me closer, kissed the top of my head. Thank you. For what? For seeing something in me worth saving, even when I couldn't see it myself. You saved yourself. I just stuck around to watch. You did more than watch. You fought for me when I couldn't fight for myself, believed in me when I'd stopped believing. That matters more than you know. We fell asleep there on the couch, wrapped in each other, the city waking up around us. The months that followed weren't perfect. Adrian still had nightmares sometimes, still fought the instinct to work himself to death, still struggled with the weight of everything he'd been through. I still had moments of doubt, still worried about the future, still questioned if I was strong enough for everything being with him required. But we figured it out together. Therapy helped. Distance from the company helped. Actually talking instead of hiding behind walls helped. Patricia thrived as COO, proving she'd been more than ready for the responsibility. The company stabilized. The scandal faded from headlines. Life slowly became normal in a way neither Adrian nor I had experienced before. 1 year after the trial, Adrian took me to dinner at an absurdly expensive restaurant with a view of the entire city. This is fancy, I said, looking at a menu with no prices. It's an occasion. What occasion? You'll see. We ordered, made small talk, enjoyed wine that probably cost more than my first car, and when dessert came, Adrian reached across the table and took my hand. A year ago, I was sitting in a courtroom facing my past, scared, uncertain, not sure if I'd ever really be free of it all. And now? Now I'm sitting here with you, and I'm not scared anymore. Not of the past, not of the future, because whatever comes, I know we'll handle it together. Adrian, I'm not good at speeches, never have been, but I need you to know that you changed my life. Not by fixing me or saving me, but by seeing me, really seeing me, and loving me anyway. He pulled a small box from his jacket pocket, set it on the table between us. My heart stopped. I know it hasn't been that long. I know we've been through hell and probably need more therapy than either of us is getting, but I also know I don't want to spend another day wondering what we could be. He opened the box, revealing a simple but beautiful ring. Marry me. Build a life with me. Let's figure out the rest together. I stared at the ring, then at him, and felt tears building. You said no pressure, I managed. Back in the club that first night. No strings. Yeah, well, I lied. He smiled, nervous for the first time since I'd known him. So what do you say? Think you can handle being married to someone as complicated as me? I thought about everything we'd survived. The danger, the bullets, the hospital, the trial. Thought about who Adrian had been when we met, closed off, haunted, barely holding together. And who he was now, open, healing, actually happy. Thought about who I'd been, heartbroken, lost, settling for safe, and who I'd become, strong, certain, willing to fight for what mattered. Yes, I said. Absolutely yes. He slid the ring onto my finger with shaking hands, then came around the table and kissed me while the entire restaurant watched and probably judged, and I didn't care even a little bit. I love you, he said against my lips. I love you too, even when you're being dramatic and proposing in expensive restaurants. It's romantic. It's very you. We stayed at that restaurant until closing, talking about weddings and futures and everything we wanted to build together. And when we finally left, walking out into the city night, Adrian pulled me close. "Thank you for not running," he said. "For staying even when anyone with sense would have left. Maybe I don't have sense, or maybe I just recognized something worth fighting for when I saw it. Which one? Both, probably." He laughed, and it was free and genuine and nothing like the careful control he'd shown that first night at Eclipse. We got married 6 months later. Small ceremony, just close friends, and Patricia who cried through the entire thing, despite claiming she never cried. Maya was my maid of honor and spent the reception telling anyone who'd listen about the night I met Adrian at a club and had no idea who he was. Detective Martinez came bringing her wife. "Glad to see you both made it out the other side," she said. "Not everyone does." "We had help," Adrian said. "You had each other. That's what made the difference." The reception was perfect in its imperfection. The DJ played the wrong song for our first dance. Maya got too drunk and gave a toast that made everyone uncomfortable. The cake was slightly lopsided, and none of it mattered because we were happy. Actually, genuinely happy. Later, after the guests had left and we were alone in the hotel suite, Adrian pulled me onto the balcony. The city spread out below us, millions of lights and possibilities. "So this is what normal feels like," he said. "Is it what you expected?" "Better, because you're in it." I leaned against him, his arms wrapping around me from behind. "What do you think our life looks like in 5 years?" "I don't know, but I hope it's boring. Beautifully, wonderfully boring. No midnight meetings, no bullets, no trials. Just us building something real." "That sounds perfect." "Yeah, it really does." We stood there watching the city, two people who'd found each other in the darkness and somehow made it to the light. It hadn't been easy. Hadn't been simple or safe or anything close to what either of us expected. But it had been real. And real, messy and complicated and imperfect as it was, turned out to be exactly what we both needed. Years later, when people asked how we met, Adrian would tell them we met at a club on a night when we both needed to forget who we were. And I'd add that we stayed because we helped each other remember who we wanted to become. It was the truth, more or less. The complicated, imperfect, entirely human truth. Because that's what love is, really. Not the fairy tale version where everything works out smoothly, but the messy version where two broken people choose each other, choose to heal together, choose to build something beautiful from the wreckage of their pasts. We chose each other, every day, through the hard parts and the healing, through the nightmares and the normal, through everything that came after. And in the end, that choice mattered more than any of the chaos that brought us together. We survived. We healed. We built a life. And it was more than enough.